Finally, the Edmonton faithful getting a chance to see their team at home after a Week 1 setback and a Week 2 bye. The Double E had lots of time to prepare for arguably the best-looking team in the league in the Montreal Alouettes. A bit of a tough opening game against BC for Trey Ford. He had 178 yards, 1 INT. Yes, he had some great athletic plays, but needing more from Trey if they have any shot tonight going against that potent Montreal D-line.
Tyson Philpott is primed for a big game. Last week, he's been playing well so far at the beginning of the season, but tonight, I feel like it's going to be his night, Chaz.
Wouldn't doubt it. He's a gamer. Isaac, IDM, a burglar. No, I'm just talking about Edmonton ranting and raving about how good their defensive lineman was, Robbie Smith. Well, I talked to Noah Thorpe last week, and he loves this guy. You know what? Maybe just defensive line coaches love to talk about their guys. Maybe that's what we've realized.
Arguably the best face paint too in the league right now.
For sure.
IDM Berglund, oh my gosh. Every time I see him, it's just under the mask. Imagine that coming at you. Yeah. All these defenders on Montreal right now. Back alongside Enoch Mwamba, Davis Sanchez. It's Thursday Night Football on TSN. Honestly, I am pumped for this matchup. I think everyone's looking at Montreal, thinking they're going to win this game. Jez, I'm completely with you. Going across the country and having a week to prepare, it is something a little bit different, but key matchups in this one for you. Yeah,
we listened to Dwayne Ford in the pregame do a great breakdown of this defensive line in Montreal and what they can do getting their hands on balls. Well, the key for this Edmonton team is going to be for the offensive line. It's a bigger offensive line to maul, to get their bodies on these Montreal defensive linemen, get them on the ground, establish that run, just to try to get some clarity and make it easier for Trey. I think that is key to me.
I'm going to look at the DBs for the Edmonton Elks. Look, they're going to have a lot of pressure. Davis Alexander, he's a guy. Now, he hasn't performed to the best of his abilities. I don't think quite yet. He hasn't tapped into it yet, but he's going to put pressure with Austin Mike, Tyson Philpott, Charleston Rambo, and Tyler Snead, who's often forgotten. These DBs are going to have to stand up if they want to have a chance tonight.
You know what, too? I'm looking at this home crowd, and I know I said it in the pregame, too, but I'm hoping this home crowd shows up because, and the tailgate, by the way, looked absolutely amazing, but it has been a lot of turnover on this team for the last few years, and they deserve a winning team, so hopefully they're all in. What are you pointing to?
What do you want from Davis Alexander? He hasn't lost a game in his life.
Oh, my God.
I just want the best.
6-0 as a starter.
I want the best.
You know, the record's 8-0.
If you want to win, you get that. I just haven't seen anything from him yet. I haven't. No, I'm not. I like the kid.
Out in the front, but I'm taking my time. Long way to run, but I stay on that line. Out in the sun, but no, I've never gone blind. And I'm on a mission to full ignition. And no, I'm not slowing it down. Eyes on the road, and I'm pouring ground. Going for broke, I got a couple more rounds. And you know I'll pass you, cause I'll outlast you.
Dean Nebel of Richmond, BC. This is your chance to win big thanks to Save on Foods' $1 million touchdown win. If a kickoff is returned for a touchdown, you could win groceries for a year. If 2 kickoffs are returned for touchdowns in this game, you could also win $1 million. Good luck, Dean. Let's get you to Edmonton and join Rod Smith and Dwayne Ford.
Thank you, Kate. It's turned out to be a very nice Thursday evening here in June for Thursday Night Football. The Alouettes and the Edmonton Elks, they're hoping that it's a new era here at Commonwealth Stadium. But, of course, to prove that, they've got to be one of the top teams in the CFL last year. And, of course, the 2-0 start for the Montreal Alouettes, Dwayne. And speaking of great starts, Davis Alexander, going back to last season, now 6-0 as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, the best start by a quarterback to start his career in terms of remaining unbeaten in over a decade since Bo Levi Mitchell. Absolutely terrific. Career high in passing yards for Alexander last week as well. And, of course, on the other side, Trey Ford, new offensive coordinator for him and Jordan Maximic last year. You see those 9 wins as an Elks starting quarterback looking for number 10 here tonight in the home opener.
This is Mark Killam's first season as a head coach in the CFL. He was born in Edmonton, back home after 20 years with the Calgary State Stampeders off to the 0-1 start after the loss in BC. And hey, this is home for Jason Moss, longtime player here. He was a head coach here, but he has had some great success now in his third season as head coach in Montreal, including the Grey Cup in 23, a 2-0 start. There's Arkell Smith. Great return game against BC, including one of 65 yards in that game back with Javon Leake. The Alouettes won the toss. They've deferred. They will kick off. Jose Maltos, Thursday night football underway here at Commonwealth. Glad you could join us. It's Arkell Smith across the 30 and the 35, and special teams tackler extraordinaire Alex Gagne in on the tackle. Here comes Trey Ford. Had a couple of big plays, but still 18-27, 178 2 weeks ago in Vancouver.
Yeah, and just looking for a little more consistency. As mentioned, he's got a new offensive coordinator this year. He said things are a little bit different. A lot of the concepts are the same as what he's learned through his first 3 years in the Canadian Football League, but the read progressions are different, and so there's a little bit of reprogramming going on here for a still young quarterback.
Justin Rankin, the running back, in behind Trey Ford. His fourth year into the University of Waterloo, handing off to Rankin. Second half of the season last year, Rankin really came on at over 700 yards rushing.
So we take a look at this Edmonton Elks offense. Happy to welcome Brett Boyko back at the right tackle position, one of 4 Canadians starting on that offensive line. In the receiving core, Keon Julian Grant faces his former team, the Montreal Alouettes, for the first time in his career. He moved over to Edmonton as a free agent this offseason.
One of the ex-Alouettes, Cody Fajardo as well, the backup to Trey Ford in this one. Gain of 4, Rankin. 2nd and 6 from the Edmonton 42. That's Ford. How many times are we going to see this tonight? Steps up, escapes the pocket, gets it up near midfield. The legs of Trey Ford. And a first down for Edmonton.
Yeah, and here Trey Ford sees an opportunity. Isaac Berglund gets upfield on the rush, creates a bit of a gap. Ford uses his legs, gets outside. Nice decision as he comes towards the sideline here. Justin Rankin passes up at sort of a crackback block on Darnell Sankey that likely would have been penalized. Good decision, good discipline there for the Elks running back.
He was their leading rusher in BC 2 weeks ago. 6 carries for 54 yards, not to mention the scrambling he did to set up the pass. So up near midfield, call it a gain of 11, but a first down for the Elks. Trying to get this offense moving. Yards coming at a premium against the Lions back in week 1 from the Edmonton 53. Trey Ford handing out to Rankin again. Finds him. Najee Murray will push him out down around the Alouette 35. Justin Rankin. And they are establishing the running game now early in this one. A gain of 21.
Yeah, and you heard Enoch Mwamba allude to this in studio in the pregame. This is a big part of what the Elks need to do, a big part of their offensive success in the second half last season. You want to manage Montreal at the line of scrimmage, you've got to be able to run the football successfully, and it's one of the things Edmonton did so well in the back half of 24.
21 yards down to the Montreal 36. First down, faking the handoff, tossing it off to the left to Julian Grant. And he is met there by some teammates right away, including ex-teammates. Wesley Sutton got it started, and they end up losing a little bit of yardage. 3-yard loss for the Elks on that one.
And taking a look at this Alouette defense, Sean Oakman had a deflection that created a pick 6 for Wesley Sutton last week, former Elk. Taiwan Mullen takes over at that nickel linebacker spot, making his 3rd start of the season, former corner at Indiana University. And there is the aforementioned Wesley Sutton, who had the first contact on his former teammate Keon Julian Grant on the last play.
A loss of 3, back to the Alouette 39. Opening possession, Thursday night football. Edmonton, and the 2nd down and 13. Throwing to the right. It is caught by Stephen Dunbar. Kavion Ento has him wrapped up. A flag does come out on the play by Ento. Not nearly enough for just barely to get back to the line of scrimmage. We'll see what the penalty is.
Procedure, no end, Edmonton. Penalties decline. It's 3rd down.
So a 3rd down coming up.
Good job, Larry. Good job.
For Mark Killam, his 2nd game as a head coach, and His field goal kicker is the rookie Vincent Blanchard, who missed 2 last week, or game 1 in Vancouver. He also missed an extra point, hooking that one to the left. All 3 of them were, but Gillum had said this week still have lots of faith in this kicker who does have a booming leg. And gets a shot here from just outside the 40 to get the first points on the board. It is through. Field goal, Blanchard. Points on the board, Edmonton. Opening drive. The 3-0 lead. So Davis Alexander, best start to a career by a CFL quarterback since Bo Levi Mitchell back in 2014. Can he improve to 7-0 to start his career? Davis Alexander got 4 starts last season. He won them all, and 2-0 this year. So with one more win, Dwayne can match Bo Levi Mitchell and Jeff Garcia for the 2nd best starts by a starting quarterback.
Well, that's a pretty lofty company already. You look at the names on that list. If I'm not mistaken, by the way, the guy at the top of the list, Danny Mack, celebrated a birthday this week.
Oh, Danny Mack. Great career that he had. Alexander takes the handoff, rolling out. It's Tyler Sneed, who had a great game in Ottawa last week. 151 yards receiving, that Owls offense.
And taking a look at the offensive line, Donnie Ventrelli, one of 3 Americans on that O-line. He's going to start at the right guard position. Alouettes had 2 receivers over 100 yards last week, and Sneed and Mack happy to welcome Charleston Rambo back to the lineup this week as James Letcher started in his place in week 2 in Ottawa.
2nd and 10. Under pressure. Steps up. Alexander takes off. And he can run too. He gets it up across the 50. Enough for a first down. Move those sticks. An 11-yard gain for the Alouettes quarterback.
Well, both quarterbacks getting it done with their legs in the early going here. Elks supplying the pressure, 5-man rush. Nothing coming open for Davis Alexander. You get a glimpse of his athleticism here as he gets out on the perimeter.
He is over 60 yards rushing this young season. Game 3 for Montreal. First quarter, first possession, Alouettes. And the handoff right side picks up just a couple of yards for the running back, Stevie Scott.
And great D-line. You heard Davis Sanchez talk about Robbie Smith in the opening, one of 4 former Toronto Argonauts on that defensive line. The linebacking core, Cordell Jackson moves down from the back end to take over the nickel linebacker spot this season. And the veteran Royce Metier out of Guelph comes over, one of many Canadians to move to Edmonton in free agency this offseason.
That was Sean Thomas Erlington, the ball carrier, throwing now on 2nd down. Cole Speaker, he has the catch. It is shy of a first down. Speaker in his 4th season, and up near midfield, up across midfield, but still a 3rd down and about a yard is coming up.
Looks like just bigger bodies checking in, along with short yardage quarterback Caleb Evans. In that territory in the field, just over midfield into the opponent's territory, where, of course, you're going to gamble on 3rd and 1.
So here we go. And handing it off in the sweep. A little trickier and unpredictable for the Alouettes, but a good play for them as Tyson Philpott gets around the edge and picks up the Montreal first down.
You'll see Tyson Philpott coming in motion. He's going to take this around the outside, and I love the creativity. Force the defense to defend, even in short yardage. Defend every gap, sideline to sideline. Keep that defense honest rather than just constantly attacking the A-gaps.
And after the Edmonton 46, Alexander rolling left. He completes it to Sneed. As mentioned, with 151 yards receiving. Their leading receiver last week in their victory over the Red Blacks in Ottawa.
Yeah, big day for Tyler Sneed. And, you know, it just shows you in this Alouette receiving core, they have had players come and go over the years. but the depth always seems to shine through. Sneed was a guy who missed much of last season due to injury. They lose Cam Julian Grant in free agency. They regain Tyler Sneed, and he shows up huge.
Gets it down to the 35. Thomas Erlington, been a feature back for the Alouettes so far this season. And hard-fought 3 yards to set up a second down here for Montreal.
Royce Metier coming down from his safety position to get in on the tackle.
Look at all the change, Dwayne, to that Elks secondary. The only constant of Audric Bynum last year, but Manny Rugamba, Metier, Kobe Williams, Tyrell Ford as well. Completely revamped in the back end, just about. Second and 7. First possession still for Montreal, trailing 3-0. Alexander, pass time, steps up, and tries that little shovel pass again to Sneed that worked so well against the Red Blacks last week, and gets it down to around the 25, and looks to be enough for a first down. Very close indeed it is. Sticks move again for Montreal.
Alexander's doing a nice job here of extending the play with his legs, staying alive. Tyler Sneed, you see him working across the formation, just making himself available as an outlet there for his quarterback. Recognizing he's in a soft spot in the coverage. Settling down.
A little underhand pass there. 9th play of the drive. First down. Takes the handoff. Throwing down to the 5. Austin Mack. Another one who had a great day against the Red Blacks last week with over 100 yards receiving. Has 19 more yards there in his first catches. It'll be goal to go now for Montreal.
Yeah, Mack coming from the backfield. He's the number 2 receiver to your left, working towards the corner here. You know, we talked a little bit about it last week, but great sign for the Montreal Alouettes when 2 guys, Austin Mack obviously had the NFL shot in the first part of the last season, battled injuries when he came back, never really got in sync. Tyler Sneed missing much of the year with injury. Both those guys showing that they are all the way back here in 2025.
Drive continues, play fake, dumping it off, touchdown! The fullback, David Dallaire, gets 6 on the board for Montreal as the Alouettes and Davis Alexander impressively work their way down the field.
David Dallaire with his first of the new season. He's motioning across the formation. You're going to get man coverage so often. Down close to that goal line, they work him across the formation, force someone to try to track him through traffic. He gets lost going behind that line of scrimmage. Coverage can't stay with him. Easy 6 for the Owls.
And Alexander used a variety of receivers, capped off with Dallaire, and the point after by Jose Malto. So the 4th catch of the season for Dallaire, and as Dwayne mentioned, his first touchdown at 20-25 gives Montreal the lead. Thursday night in Edmonton, 7-3 Owls.
Love the play design here. You're going to see Tyson Philpott is working towards the flat. He's going to just be out there as a blocker. The primary receiver, David Dallaire, also working across the formation just to lose coverage. But send him out there. Philpott effectively as the lead blocker. Dallaire picks up the ball. Philpott leads the way in with the block on the corner. Devondre Bynum. Easy 6 and an Alouette lead here in the first quarter.
After 10 plays, 70 yards in just over 5 minutes, and a great response. 4 different receivers used by Davis Alexander, including that man. Product of Laval, Rougeor, touchdown Dallaire, 7-3 lead. Maltos with the kickoff. And back for it again is Arkel Smith at the Edmonton 15. And runs into some traffic after a 21-yard return just over the 35. First time out for Trey Ford in this game. Marched him down close enough to get a field goal in the first points of the game. Ford, Edmonton's number 1 QB, getting ready to go back to work again. In Edmonton's first game of the season in week 1, Trey Ford didn't have the greatest passing performance, Dwayne, but it is his legs, as we've seen before, that forces defenses to respect him.
Yeah, it just gives you another weapon to defend, forces you to defend really sideline to sideline. when Trey Ford is in there. Contain, obviously so important. He has that ability to make teams pay if he can get to the outside. He's already done it once here against Montreal.
Here we go, 7-3. Elks now trail back to Rankin as he's trying to grind it up to the 40, but runs into a wall of Alouettes after a gain of 3.
Well, Trey Ford looking to climb this list. He and Nathan Rourke both opening this 2025 season as starting quarterbacks for their respective teams. See Russ Jackson and Frank Cosentino atop the list. A couple of guys who played regularly in the quarterback position throughout the 60s.
Trey Ford, his 20th start in his career, in his 4th year out of the Waterloo Warriors program. And now the undisputed #1 to start this season in this new regime in Edmonton. Pressure coming. He escapes Isaac Eddie Berglund. And he gets up across the 40 on that carry. Still just 2 yards. A lot of running to pick up 2, and a 3rd down coming up. They'll have to kick it away.
See Isaac Eddie Berglund from his defensive end spot. Just got caught inside for a quick second. That's all Trey Ford needs to escape the pocket. No receivers pop open for him as he's on the scramble there, so he just takes what he can get. A little short of the 1st down.
Cody Grace, who until this season was with the Calgary Stampeders and averaging nearly 60 yards a punt 2 weeks ago in week 1. A 50-yarder there with no chance for James Letcher. Well, he rushes quarterbacks, also looks for interceptions. We'll have more on Lowell Uguak. What a start to the season for Montreal defensive tackle Lowell Uguak. This is week 1. Nick Arbuckle. The ball comes out, looks like an interception, no. And it ends up going for a touchdown by Isaac Eddie Berglund when Uguak thought the play was over. He gets another chance last week of Matthew Schultz. And he catches and he rumbles down. And he's back home in his native Edmonton. Let's say hello to Tom Gazzola.
Yeah, Rod, Lowell Uguak, no stranger to Commonwealth Stadium. Obviously an Edmonton area kid and is very, very familiar with Commonwealth. Played halftime here as a kid in minor football during Elks games. He also, when he got older, spent time on the concourses selling 50-50 tickets. And then now he's coming home, got about 50 friends and family. Most importantly, Mom Akan, sister Akul among the crew. And he grew up watching guys like Fred Stabs, Ricky Ray, Patrick Kabongo, and then, of course, the mayor of Commonwealth, Odell Willis, who he trains with now in the off-season. And even though a bunch of his friends are Alouette fans, some of them still haven't converted over from the Elks, guys.
Well, give them time, Tom. Give them time. Yeah, he had to round up some extra tickets. You saw his mom and his sister there. Well, Uguak, great rookie year, we remember, in 23 in the Grey Cup year, and then came back from an NFL tryout last year.
Yeah, exactly. We talked a lot about some of the changes to the starting defense for the Alouettes over the course of that 23 season when they really started to gain momentum down the stretch. One of those changes was Lowell Uguak getting into the starting lineup at defensive end.
Alouettes got 10 yards out of Sean Thomas Erlington. 1st and 10. It is caught by Tyson Philpott as he has it up around the 35. Be about 4 yards shy of another 1st down.
Tyson Philpott, another guy in that receiving core coming back from an injury-shortened 2024, looking to be in fine form. Once again, Davis Alexander showing some of his elusiveness. Doing a nice job there, kind of getting the shoulders turned upfield to make an accurate throw despite being on the run to his left.
Thomas Erlington in behind him on a 2nd down and 3. And it goes to 21. 1st down and more. Gets it up across to about the 44 for product of the Montreal Carabin, Sean Thomas Erlington.
Yeah, starts off deep in that backfield behind his quarterback. A nice cut there. Bouncing that one out to the right. You see a block coming from the left side of your screen off offensive right to pin the middle linebacker, Niles Morgan, on that play. Thomas Erlington makes the read to bounce that one, but a little slow getting up afterwards.
Getting some attention from the Alouette medical staff, so presumably Stevie Scott will be coming in, getting a spot in the roster. Tough decision for Jason Moss and Danny Machocha. Walter Fletcher ended up being let go as they go with Scott, and of course with Sean Thomas Erlington, who had 125 yards rushing, that's it, throughout last season with Montreal, comes into this day at 106. So the way things been going right now, and 21 more on the board, just in week 3, eclipsing what he had done a year ago. But it is Scott in and Thomas Erlington out. As he walks off the field. And a first down. Alouettes have the lead. They have the ball up at their 43. Faking to Scott with time to throw. Deep look for Charleston Rambo. Rambo down around the 10. Had to miss last week for personal reasons. Back in the Alouettes lineup, and the biggest play we've seen of this day.
This is an absolute strike from Davis Alexander. Great protection, allowing this one time to develop. Charleston Rambo's helmet does not survive contact with the ground, but the ball does for a huge 54-yard gain on the play.
Montreal red zone season.
Came in with 3 catches for 36, so gets that and then some on that 54-yarder. So Montreal's in business again very quickly down to the Edmonton 13, looking to add to that 4-point lead. Pressure's coming. Alexander, end zone, touchdown. Tyson Philpott, his second touchdown of this season. And the Alouettes do indeed take the initiative here at Commonwealth Stadium.
Tyson Philpott tracked this football and just went and got it. He's right on the left edge of your screen. Disappearing in motion, working towards the corner. Just following that one over the shoulder, aware where he is relative to the boundary. Reels it in.
5 plays, 91.
So 5 plays, 91 yards, and a touchdown. 2 possessions for the Alouettes in this game, both resulting in touchdowns. The point after from Maltos as he puts that one through. So we get a 14-3 game. First quarter, still 1:19 to go until quarter time.
We're going to go back to the big play on that drive. The bomb to Charleston Rambo, bottom left corner of your screen. Starts off tight to the formation, which gives him a ton of field to work with here. He goes deep, Austin Mack underneath. Nice read and delivery there. And here you're going to see Philpott, the inside receiver of 3. Other 2 guys are going to keep it short, which means they hold their defenders down, so there's no help as Philpott works to the corner. Those 2 outside defenders have to take care of the low routes, so they can't drop off and get underneath on the corner route to Philpott. That leaves the defender, Kobe Williams, chasing from the inside. Long way to go to the corner. He can't get there with a well-placed toss.
Big play to Rambo, finished off to Philpott, who had a touchdown catch in week 1 against the Argos. That's number 2. And it's Arkell Smith pulling his way through up across the 45. 1:14 to go. And yeah, Philpott said, give that guy some credit, who he made the team when they had a lot of questions at receiver at the start of 2024.
And here's another look. Looked a lot like his first touchdown of the new season. Back of that end zone.
And Philpott, of course, one of the heroes of 2023 with that Grey Cup winning catch against Winnipeg. And it was having a great season last year until it ended against Hamilton. Injured about halfway through it and was done for the rest of the year. So now Edmonton in an early hole in this final minute of the first quarter, with Rankin trying to push his way closer to the 50.
Isaac Berglund in the middle of the action, as he's been a lot here in the early going. Edmonton head coach Mark Killam, Ademi Berglund, one of his former charges is Killam was the special teams coordinator for many years in Calgary before making this move back north.
And Ademi Berglund, started his career with the Stampeders. Had several years there before making the move over to Montreal. Trey Ford off to the right. It is caught by Javon Leake. His first catch of this game, still shy of a first down. Be a few yards shy. 4 seconds to go until quarter time. Taiwan Mullen, their nickel linebacker, in on the tackle.
Yeah, a couple completions out to the perimeter for Trey Ford in the early going, but nothing where he's had to deal with those trees in the midst of the defensive line that we talked about for the Alouettes in the opening.
James Letcher, mentioning Rambo didn't play last week in Ottawa, so Letcher not only a returner still, but a receiver, and he scored a touchdown, his first as a receiver in the CFL last week in their victory over the Red Blacks. Cody Grace, his second punt of this game. Letcher back inside his 10, does take it. Punt of 48 yards, and not much of a return there. Good coverage. Josiah Shakel. Joel DeBlanco in on the punt cover. Tanner Green as well for the Edmonton Elks. So Edmonton's down, but they do have the Alouettes hemmed deep in their zone. Montreal's offense, 2 possessions. Down they go into the end zone. Couple of touchdowns, 14-3. Alouettes through 1. The numbers through a quarter. It's the Alouettes in front by 11. Offensive numbers, a big difference here. Just 5 yards passing for Trey Ford in Edmonton. Davis Alexander, that offense hasn't missed a beat through 2 possessions, couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, the offense has been a big part of the story. Maybe tired of that defense stealing the headlines in the early part of this 2025 season. But when you're Edmonton, you need to find some consistency, and it's not always about putting points on the board. But the fact is, you're getting into a little bit of a trend of the defense being on the field a little bit too much in the early going. So the offense just needs to find some consistency even to give their defense a chance to compete here.
They ran the ball well, Edmonton did, in their first possession, led to a field goal, but mentioned Ford's just 3 for 3 for 5 yards, as Montreal has 3 times the net offense so far in this game. Alexander looking to add to that. And a quick hitter there to Tyson Philpott, who had a touchdown in the first quarter and gets a first down there after a gain of 12 more yards.
Tyson in the early going finds himself chasing twin brother Jalen in the early receiving stats. We'll get to see Jalen on Saturday afternoon in Calgary as his Stampeders take on the Ottawa Red Blacks.
We'll be there to see that. Call it a gain of 13 up to the 28 now for the Alouettes. They start deeper in their own zone. This is their worst starting point, but they look poised to march the field the way things have been going so far. Alexander 9 for 10 for 138 and a couple of touchdown passes to Dallaire and to Philpott. First and 10 from the 28. And quickly up to Cole Speaker across the 30 and pushes his way up to about the 34. Cornell Jackson in on the tackle, and Niles Morgan as well, a gain of 6 more yards.
You see Niles Morgan and Nick Anderson side by side. Here the Alouette receivers setting up the blocking for Cole Speaker. A little bit of a forgotten man in the early going this season, but the Alouettes' leading receiver a year ago, over 800 yards.
Pressure, Alexander gets rid of it, and that one is off the hands of Philpott with Tyrell Ford Ford in on the coverage, and they got some heat on Alexander, and so for the first time in this game, we're going to see Joseph Zima as Montreal be forced to punt it away.
Yeah, this is a big stop. From the right side of your screen, you're going to see Nick Anderson. He finds himself matched up with the back. Stevie Scott in the game in place of Sean Thomas Erlington. Anderson manages to get the hurry as that one glances off the fingertips of Tyson Philpott.
So the Elks defense holds. Zima to punt it, standing around his 20 with Javon Leake, the lone one back for it for Edmonton at his 30. 45-yard punt, he cuts it back inside. And down he goes, not much further there. Nice night in Edmonton to start week 3. Thursday night football at Commonwealth. Alouettes lead at 14-3. Scan the QR promo code on screen to get 35% off Crave monthly plans for your first 3 months and stream the biggest blockbuster movies and hit series you can't stop watching. That's on Crave, proudly Canadian. Thursday night, Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, and the Elks home opener coming in at 0-1, and they're in an early hole here against the 2-0 Montreal Alouettes, who lead it 14-3. But Montreal just punted for the first time in this game, so Trey Ford back to work, shot open. In pursuit, 2, chasing number 2, and that one intended for Zach Mathis goes incomplete.
Goes incomplete. I like the play call, though, in terms of moving the pocket around a little bit for Trey Ford as we take a look at the Elks' recent starts to seasons.
Yeah, no, I mean 0-3 in 22, but 0-9 in 2023 before they finally won in Hamilton. And last year, 0-7 start. So for Mark Killam, all the years in Calgary, hired his first head coaching job and tasked with the big mountain to climb for the organization in terms of getting into their winning ways again. It's just game 2 and trying to get something going here on the 2nd and 10, and forced out of the pocket and throwing, though, and completing it to Stephen Dunbar, but still shy of a first down by a few yards for Edmonton.
And Edmonton looking to get a little bit of momentum here. Sends out the short yardage unit. Quarterback by a familiar face.
They're 2 for 2 in 3rd and short. And it is Cody Fajardo. Ex-Alouette against his old team. Flags come out. He does have enough for the first down, but pending the flag. Fajardo used in short yardage a couple of times at BC Place 2 weeks ago.
Montreal number 2. 5-yard penalty makes it a first down.
And so, yes, he gets the first down. It was offside Alouettes, but Fajardo had a couple of touchdowns for Edmonton. He has their only touchdown so far this season.
And does a nice job here, finding a soft spot in the defense. Picking his spot, ducking his shoulders, and getting that ball upfield to move the sticks. Nice follow-up here by the Edmonton offense following that big stop from their D, looking to get a little bit of momentum here in the first half of this ballgame.
Must be a strange feeling for Cody Fajardo. 2 years as the Alouettes quarterback, and now against them. Javon Leake, and he gets away from that tackle, heading right, and he gets about another yard, pushing Kavion Ento there, and a first down carry.
Well, Javon Leake getting involved in the offense last year was a big part of that shot in the arm to the Elks running game. Yeah, Trey Ford at quarterback, Justin Rankin bursting onto the scene. Javon Leake taking snaps at running back for a guy who had been primarily a special teamer. Kevin Brown, who had been so good for Edmonton the year before, was still in the mix as well. But that run game was such a catalyst for them offensively.
Yeah.
They're one of the top teams in net offense last season.
So picks up 4, 2nd and 6. After the Leake run, he stays in the backfield, and it's thrown off to the left to Zach Mathis at the 40, and a first down for Edmonton.
Zach Mathis lining up on the outside. First round pick in the supplemental draft last season for Edmonton. So essentially like taking an advance on their 2025 first-round pick, get him in the lineup a year earlier. Zach Mathis, one of 3 Canadian starters in the receiving corps.
Elks right tempo, and running right up the middle is Javon Leake. He gets it down to about the 31-yard line as Edmonton trying to work quickly here. Second quarter and trailing 14-3.
Yeah, the ground game again, bringing the Elks offense back to life. Got Javon Leake, Trey Ford moving around a little bit in the pocket.
The Elks' best drive so far. This is the 7th play. Mark it at the 32 and a gain of 8 for Javon Leake. Second down and short for Trey Ford and the Elks. Back to Leake. And he slices his way down around the 30 and 25. An easy first down there for Edmonton. This drive continues. 6 more yards.
Yeah, and this success on the ground, I think, lends itself to Trey Ford's strengths in the passing game. A little bit of play action. Read option, let him get out on the perimeter with an option to run or throw the football, which makes him that much tougher to defend. Nice job here by the man pulling the strings, offensive coordinator Jordan McSimmon.
After several years in the same job with the BC Lions from the 26 now. It's Rankin, the ball carrier. So they continue to run it. He picks up about a yard there. Najee Murray in on the tackle for the Owls.
Yeah, Edmonton playing a few snaps of big ball there. Extra offensive lineman Phil Grahovic in the game as a fullback. Tanner Green as well, one of the longest serving Elks. Now in year 7. Fullback, occasionally lining up as a tight end.
So 2nd and 9 at the Montreal 25. Best drive so far for Edmonton in this game. Quickly and knocked away. Marc-Antoine Dequoy, and Ford nearly caught it himself, but dropped it. It's Dequoy coming in, but one of many Alouette defenders so far this season that has made life miserable for the passing lane of a quarterback.
It could be anybody lined up at the line of scrimmage in Montreal's defense as they move people around. Marc-Antoine Dequoy this time is coming off the edge, very aware. If he's not going to get there, he's going to get his hands up. And we're going to assume that Trey Ford dropped that on purpose to protect the field position, as he would have lost yards.
He would have. It's Blanchard in. He's 1 for 1. We'll call it 2 for 2 now. Vincent Blanchard's having a better night than in week 1. Well, often it's been D lineman for the Alouettes. This time the safety. Dequoy coming in to knock it away. 14-6. Montreal still leads. Tonight's backup quarterbacks were the starting QBs on the other team last year. McLeod Bethel-Thompson moving over to the Owls after Cody Fajardo had left. Montreal had made its decision to go with Davis Alexander, and he ends up in Edmonton.
Yeah, a couple of veteran guys trading places. Fajardo particularly interesting, right? Grey Cup winner in 2023, best record in the East in 24, but the Owls moving on.
It was Fajardo to Philpott to win the Grey Cup back in 23. Philpott, touchdown tonight. He's got another catch there. Cody Fajardo, yeah, career, remember Saskatchewan before that, started with Toronto, had briefly a time in BC, but you look what at his career, really, and very good numbers, and you know that legacy, they could never take that away, that final drive, the championship run for the Alouettes in 2023, throwing again, it's Rambo, the big catch, a 54-yarder in the first quarter. So those were the numbers of Cody Fajardo in his career. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, a couple of Grey Cup rings. He was on the team in 17 with the Argos, and of course 2022 as well. But with the Elks, we talked about this. They didn't have the record to show for it, but he did have some pretty good numbers.
Yeah, and a lot of times last season, I think the argument would be that when the Elks were losing at the start of the season, it wasn't necessarily their quarterback play that was their biggest issue, but the offense changed a little bit. Dynamics changed with Trey Ford in the lineup.
Alexander throwing again to Philpott again.
Second down.
His fifth catch, this one, a second down coming up halfway through this second quarter.
But needless to say, in the Canadian Football League, it's typically going to take more than one quarterback to get you through the regular season. Just nature of the league with the number of times quarterbacks drop back to throw the ball or scramble with the football. There are going to be injuries, and these are a couple of pretty good insurance policies for these two teams to have.
Boy, you're not kidding. You got backups like Bethel Thompson and Fajardo. Pump fake on the second down and 5, and a deep look down the rail to the left for Rambo again, nearly. But coverage is there, and a flag comes out. Devondrick Bynum was right with him, and was he a little too close as Alexander tried to hit another deep shot.
Pass interference, Edmonton number 16. Automatic first down.
And the referee, Tim Croker, so it is Bynum flag for the PI.
Yeah, top of your screen, you'll see the matchup. Charleston Rambo lined up out wide. Devondrick Bynum bailing out of the box to pick him up. And maybe leaning into the receiver a little bit here. Tough to say. Watch the left arm of Devondrick Bynum. Yeah, a little grab on the inside arm of Rambo.
The previous ruling of a defensive pass interference. The play will be reviewed.
Mark Killam, throwing his first challenge flag as a head coach, does not think that was pass interference, and what would amount to be a 47-yard gain if that interference call stands up. So the replay center will have a look at this.
I think much of the timing of this challenge for Mark Killam, from my perspective, is about the yards gained. Obviously, at a time in the game when his team had fought back to gain a little bit of momentum, this would be a 47-yard gain for Montreal. But I think it's very much about the magnitude of the play and the timing, maybe less than how much you're convinced that this wasn't pass interference, because I suspect that the Elks might be destined to lose this challenge.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, though, you're right in this situation, because this will put him at first and goal if the play stands up. If it is pass interference, Devondrick Bynum. So the replay center taking a quick look at that. Is it a first and goal for the Alouettes? The decision now from Tim Croker.
After review by the replay center, he's calling the field stands. Edmonton, by losing the challenge, has lost a timeout. It's first down Montreal.
So the Elks losing a timeout as well, but up against it now after they looked like they got a little momentum going on offense to drive down for a field goal at least, trailing by 8, but Montreal now really threatening for more. On a first and goal at the 6. Sean Thomas Erlington back in this game. Cordell Jackson has him, but Erlington's still able to get it inside the 5. Works it around the edge. He still somehow got 3 yards out of that play when it looked like they had him for a loss.
Yeah, ST did well to bounce this. We'll watch left side of your screen, 13. Cordell Jackson fights off the block of fullback Jacob Mason and just locks on to Sean Thomas Erlington to slow him down until a little support can come, but limiting that gain. Big play there. Again, Cordell Jackson, one of the few holdovers in the secondary group. He moves from the actual back end down to the nickel linebacker spot this season.
Second and goal at the 3. A pass into the end zone for Mack, and the coverage is there. Right there from Leonard Johnson, who came over from Hamilton with the Argos before that, and breaks that up and puts the Alouettes in a field goal situation.
Keep an eye on the outside, far right of your screen. Austin Mack gets a good release. A nice recovery on the play by Leonard Johnson. A little bit of a throw behind there allows him to get back in position, got his head around, locating the ball, getting a piece of it.
Jose Maltos was 6 for 6 in field goals in Ottawa last week, and with that one on the season, he is 9 for 10. So Montreal, quick quickly works their way down the field to negate that Alouette field goal, or the Elks one, excuse me, a Montreal field goal. Back to an 11-point lead. Trey Ford's got his hands full today. He's also got a full house at home, Tom, I understand.
Yeah, indeed, Rod. He's trying to build familiarity here at Commonwealth with Jordan McSimic and the new playbook. He's also doing some building at home. First time he bought a house here in Edmonton. I know he's been here for a couple of years. And he's also doing renovations, guys. It's a full house, like you said, Rod. He's got brother Tyrell in there. His wife and his daughter came in for the bye week. And then, by the way, wide receiver Zach Mathis is in the home. And you got to have someone in the basement. Well, that's Arkell Smith. And during the offseason, he was doing renovations to the house. He says brother Tyrell is better on the field skill-wise than he is with a hammer. The renos are on pause, guys, because he's trying to build something here at home at Commonwealth with the rest of his Elks family, and that making it an uncomfortable visit for opposing teams.
Hey, Tom, he might have to build an addition. Forget the renovations. If he keeps adding teammates as roommates with his family as well, that's Justin Rankin, an 11-yard gain.
Yeah, pretty good play to build on right there for the Edmonton Elks. Justin Rankin in the ground game. Nice physical run to move the sticks.
There's Terrell. We showed you back in week 1 a great campaign by the Edmonton Elks with Coach Killam saying hello to Trey and then putting his head down in his office, and it looks like Trey's coming by again and says, "Hey, Coach," and pauses and says, "Oh, hey, Terrell." A little confusion there with the twin brothers now on the same team. And yeah, what a year he had. Winnipeg all-star season. 7 picks. It's second just to Saskatchewan's Roland Milligan.
Yeah, breakout year. And, you know, I think that it's pretty clear that one of the missions and one of the things on which new general manager or returning general manager Ed Hervey in his second stint in that role here in Edmonton and head coach Mark Killam really clicked on and agreed on in terms of building this team was that they had to strengthen their Canadian talent. They went out and added a number of new Canadian starters in free agency. Edmonton actually starting 10 Canadians in this ball game. Terrell Ford, obviously among them. Royce Metier, Robbie Smith on defense. Keon Julian Grant coming over on offense, as well as Gregor McKellar on the offensive line. David Beard at center. Repatriated to Edmonton, a big ad as well.
Dylan Wynn, the injured Alouette, off. I did ask Terrell about not the novelty, but you know, the idea of playing on the same team as Trey, and he said it was stranger not being on his team. They've been there most of the way in college and minor football as well, and now in the pros. The Ford brothers back together, and back to Justin Rankin on the ground now, and that 1st and 10, and a flag comes out. There's Lorenzo Burns.
Nice mid-season pickup for the Alouettes last season. Lorenzo Burns took over that boundary corner spot.
No end. Edmonton. Penalties declined. It's second down.
So maybe some communication problems for the Elks. That's the second time they've been flagged for no end, failing to have 7 people on the line essentially in their offensive formation.
So it goes to 2nd and 8 now after that penalty. 17-6, under 5 minutes to go until halftime. Ford running out of time, and down he goes. That pressure up front, it's Jeffrey Cantar-Arcou. He had a big interception for the Alouette defense last week in Ottawa, and getting the sack with that pressure coming from the Owls up front.
Cantar-Arcou looping all the way around here to track down the quarterback, Darnell Sankey, as well. Another linebacker up in the line of scrimmage. Looked like Trey Ford's knees were down before he was able to get rid of that football, which obviously will change the
ball
spot.
Carrier is down with contact at the 45-yard line. It's 3rd down.
So credit the sack for Cantar-Arcou. Montreal's top pick in the draft in 2024. Cody Grace back to punt it away. Some heat on there. Grace does get it away off the hump. James Letcher, 26, finds a little opening there and gets it up to around the 35 where Davis Alexander will go back to work. Well, Wimbledon is right around the corner. The All England Club. You can catch the action from June 30th to July 13th on TSN and TSN Plus. Enjoy watching tennis, do you?
I don't, but you know who was a pretty good tennis player in high school?
Who's that?
Marshall Ferguson.
Marshall Ferguson was?
Yeah, you asked Marsh about that sometime.
Okay.
High school tennis champion, mixed doubles, as I recall.
There you go.
Yes.
Well, Marsh is getting ready for the Argos and the Riders, but I'm sure he'll be watching Wimbledon when he can, too. And another catch there for Philpott. Having a good, solid first half, and still lots of time here for the Alouettes to see if they can add to their lead. 11 more yards, 6 catches, 50, and a touchdown so far for Philpott.
Yeah, off to a terrific start. So great to see him picking up where he left off when he was injured last season, as you mentioned, Ron. Limited to 9 games last year, but still very close to the team lead in receiving a year ago.
Stevie Scott in the backfield stays in to protect. Another deep shot. Alexander, flag comes out, and Johnson is right there, stride for stride with Mack, who puts his hands in the air, but they were close together. That flag came out before the ball arrived in their vicinity. But it looks like it's going against Edmonton.
A number of defenders back deep. Austin Mack towards the top of your screen, the only deep route, but maybe some early contact.
Legal contact on the receiver. Edmonton number 9. 10-yard penalty, makes it a first down.
So it's the safety, Royce Metier, who gets flagged.
Yeah, you'll see Metier coming over to pick up the receiver. We'll watch the contact there. Locks on to Philpott.
This should be the last play before the 3-minute warning. Clock counting down. And just on the other side of midfield for the Alouettes, John Thomas Erlington left side. Another good carry. Still going as he finally gets pushed out there by Nick Anderson. A little pushing and shoving after the fact, but it'll set up a 2nd and short coming up here for the Alouettes. The 3-minute warning. Montreal's in charge. 17-6 as halftime gets closer.
The boys are working hard. Davis is going to break down why Trey needs to help himself and stay in that pocket a little longer. Enoch is going to give a lot of love to the offense of the Montreal Alouettes. Milt Stegall weighing in on the conversation, by the way, saying Davis Alexander M.O.P.
That's early.
I like it.
That's an early play, man.
Thank you, Kate Burness. Halftime, the battle coming up. And Stevie Scott, the running back, late in this first half, 2:41 on the clock. And a 17-6 Montreal lead. Stevie Scott, who earned a job on this roster, spent most of last season on the practice roster, persistent, and one of the best players in camp, really noticed by Jason Moss for his energy the entire training camp.
You talked a little bit earlier about the tough decision to release Walter Fletcher, and Jason Moss had nothing but positive things to say about Walter Fletcher, but he was banged up a little bit during camp, which presented an opportunity for guys like Stevie Scott, Sean Thomas Erlington, Travis Tice, who's played the first few games, and they all showed out, seized the opportunity, and ended up winning jobs.
There's the ball in his hands again, and a pickup that takes it down to about the 38, a pickup of 4 for Stevie Scott.
It's one of the things that stands out about this Montreal team is the depth that they possess.
And Scott stays in at running back. Davis Alexander. 2nd down coming up. He's 14 of 17. 172 yards. Couple of touchdowns. Looking to throw again. Flushed out. Running around. Buying time. Deep look. Down to the end zone. Wide open. Touchdown. Tyler Sneed could wait all day for that one to come home. 38-yard strike, and there was nobody near him.
Davis Alexander, under pressure, manages to extend the play. Nice block there from the left tackle, Des Holmes. Tyler Sneed is wide open early on this play. It just takes Alexander some time to get to him. He's got to free himself of that pass rush a little bit, but we'll take another look.
Point after there by Maltos. As Alexander's up to 210 yards passing now, but yeah, we rave understandably about Trey Ford's ability to buy himself some time with his legs. Not a bad job for the Owls QB Alexander on that play.
Now, you'll see Tyler Sneed here. The corner is going to sit down on the flat. Watch Sneed once he gets in behind the corner, and he knows he's wide open. Jumping up and down, waving his arms, playground style. It does the trick to get the attention of his quarterback for another Alouette touchdown.
Must have just seemed like an eternity for Sneed when he knew how open he was. Will that ball ever get here?
Yeah.
But good on Alexander to find the time. Jason Moss coming out to agree with that. And for J.C. Sherrod and that the Edmonton Elk defense, pardon me, that's a tough one in this first half. Montreal's offense is having its way, and that man, Sneed, for the second straight week, is a big part of it.
Well, I'll leave it to the likes of the panel to discuss who might be the best receiving core in the Canadian Football League, but I think we got to talk a little bit about the Alouettes, don't we?
Well, when you look, as I say, the adjustments they initially had to make 2 years ago in their Grey Cup year. You got Kate and Enoch and Chaz are going to talk all about this, what's gone on in this first half. But yeah, they are Rambo and Mack and Sneed and Philpott, and that's the running back Stevie Scott in there. You got Cole Speaker beside him, and you say Speaker has been such an important part of that team and not as noticeable this year.
Yeah, Speaker was kind of the glue guy last year when there were some injuries in that receiving core, model of consistency. Guy a little bit like Davis Alexander, who had been around the team for a couple of years and grew into a bigger role.
Under 2 minutes to go till halftime. It's Rankin on the move, and his best run of the day across midfield. Finally hauled down by Wesley Sutton. Very quickly running into the Alouette zone and a 25-yard gain for Rankin.
Yeah, Justin Rankin is having himself a pretty good evening here against the Alouette defense. But you just wonder, as the margin, the lead for Montreal has widened. You know, a lot of football left to be played with, a whole half to go, but if at a certain point Edmonton might get a little twitchy about trying to get back in this one and try to force the pass, but Rankin's been good.
65 yards so far until that carry where he loses one. Big Sean Oakman coming in, going up against his old team for the first time. Oakman, former Argo, and then spent last season with Edmonton.
Yeah, on the move the last 2 years. Sean Oakman right in the middle. That Montreal defense, well, Uguak, had the first shot working on the nose. Oakman pursuing from the backside to bring down Rankin.
So a 2-yard loss for Edmonton that time. So second down and 12. 1.5 minutes to go until halftime. A half dominated by the Alouettes. Ford wants to pass. Gets it away and completes it to Stephen Dunbar. And just had an Alouette defender right in on his arm as he got rid of it. And Ford completes that one to get it inside the Montreal 35.
Yeah, nice touch on this ball for Trey Ford with pressure closing in. Drops it just over top of a defender. Dunbar lining up on the outside here. You know, interesting year in free agency, as I thought Stephen Dunbar, a 1,000-yard guy, terrific athletic receiver, great work ethic, very respected teammate, but kind of flew under the radar in a free agent class that included guys like Geno Lewis, Kenny Lawler, Dom Rhymes on the move as well.
Completion for another first down to the 20 for the Elks, and it's Curly Gittens Jr. with his first catch of the evening.
Top of your screen. Curly Gittens Jr. You'll see Dunbar and Arkell Smith getting out in front to block. Great job by those two guys. 1-2. Creating a lane for the Wilfrid Laurier grad and yet another former Toronto Argonaut, Curly Gittens Jr.
Edmonton needs a response touchdown before we hit halftime. They're getting closer, down to the 20. Ford chased out by Amy Berglund, completes it, just dumping it off to Rankin, who loses the ball and recovers it and loses 3 yards in the process on that play.
Yeah, it was survival mode for both Trey Ford and Justin Rankin on that play. Isaac Adeyemi Berglund in hot pursuit. Luol Uguak in the face of the quarterback. Nice job to get a piece of the football there by Lorenzo Burns on this Alouette defense that is hungry to create turnovers.
Big second and long coming up here for Ford and the Elks. Deep look. End zone. Intercepted. Kevion Ento, who went down, and it looked for a moment like Zach Mathis was open for the touchdown, and Ento alertly coming in to steal it away just at the last microsecond. Another big play for the Alouette defense, and timely too, with 18 seconds left until halftime.
Just not quite enough on this one. You see Zach Mathis working out of the slot on this one. He's headed towards the corner. Kevion Ento, third season as a starter at that field corner spot.
Here we go.
Hallelujah. Mathis works for the corner, but Ento falling off. Supplying the help. Taiwan Mullen was pursuing from the inside. Nice read there from Ento.
Another big play for Kevion Ento. He's had a few in an Alouette uniform, and a nice first half for that man, Davis Alexander. His Alouettes, 3 touchdown passes for Alexander, a 24-6 lead. And one of those touchdowns, the most recent one, scored by that guy, Tyler Snead.
Yeah, Tyler Snead, coming off a 100-plus yard game last week, finds himself wide open in the end zone. Third major of the game for the Montreal Alouettes.
You can almost hear him say, I'm open, I'm open. He's standing by now with Tom Gazzola.
All right, Tyler, let's just start with that play by your defense. How huge is that going into the half?
That's big 3-point swing right there. Instead of 24-9, we're up 24-6, and we get the ball back coming out of half. So great job by the defense just getting out of that situation.
And right before that, it was your touchdown. You're waving at Davis Alexander. Is that a roommate thing?
It's a roommate thing and, a little shorter guy thing. I got to jump up and down just so he can see me sometimes. But, no, it was just a good play by him, scrambling around back there. All I did was sit back there and let him come to me.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, there you go. Tyler Snead, big touchdown late in the half. Let's send it up to Kate and the panel.
The Montreal Alouettes are now making us debate of who does have the best receiving core in the CFL, and they have certainly put their names at the top now. They have looked unstoppable. Kudos to Jason Moss, too, and I know that Luke Wilson spoke about this when we were watching that game that first opening weekend. He is just calling such a great game, but my goodness, when you have a quarterback like Davis Alexander, who has 210 and 3 TDs in the first half, Enoch, I mean, that is an unbelievable talent, and he is looking like he's going to go to 7-0 as a starter.
They are having their way tonight. They're doing whatever they want. And when they want to run the ball, they run the ball. You look at the plays that they've been calling. You talk about Jason Moss already doing a great job. He started the season doing really well. Look, this is the running formation. He's in the pistol. The running back is running the ball, getting a good amount of yardage. And then play action, going deep. throwing the ball deep. And this defense by the Edmonton Elks, it seems like they're just in disarray. Right there, he seems like he was in a good position, but they're just not on the same page. They're not speaking the same language. J.C. Sherrod and that defense have to get it together because they're not stopping anybody. And you look at this play right here, wide open. There's really no excuse why a defense in the second, third week of the season, you would leave a receiver wide open like that. Look, you look at Davis Alexander. What I love about this team right now is the fact that there's a sense of urgency, Chaz. I was talking about at the beginning of the game how I want to see a lot more from them. Yeah, that's what you have to do. If you really want to be great, that's what you do. You never play down to the team that the opponents that you're playing against. And so they came into this game favored, but he is performing at a high level, and I love it.
You know what? On the flip side, too, this was our main topic of the pregame, and that was Trey Ford. And, you know, we talked about the athletic plays and how amazing they are, but you have to be that quarterback, too, who can stand in a pocket, especially on second and long, and make plays. Yeah. He has not done that. And honestly, what we said to we were like, oh, at least he doesn't have an INT, and then that happens.
Very last second.
We literally jinxed him, unfortunately, but when you've got 49 yards and one interception right now in a half of football, it's just it's not working out.
And Mark Killam came into this game with his quarterback, and they wanted to establish the run. And I get that. Takes pressure off Trey. But they're getting into situations where there's 3 drives in a row where they went first down, they tried to run the ball, they got 1 or 2 yards, and then second and long. And Trey, if in second and long, second and 7, he's got to stand in the pocket and go through his progressions. I've seen several times where he actually has a clean pocket, he's bailing early. Right here, you look, Montreal's got 6 up on the line. You don't know how many are coming. This time, 5 happened to come. Initially, I thought it was pressure. It's not. It's a clean pocket. Look at this. 5 come. Great job for the old line in the back. They pick it up. 1 receiver open, 2 receivers open, right there. There's a great pocket, clean pocket. Throw the ball, deliver the ball. Instead, he bails out and takes off. Now, this is what we talk about, Enoch. Okay, we talk about his ability. We talk about his ability to scramble. He just beat a guy to the edge. He's making a play here. They don't get the first down, but in plays like this, sometimes, and I talked to guys last year about this, and there were simple plays to be made out there, and Trey is making these amazing plays. And again, right here, he bails out again. On this play, you see a great play from Ento come over, make that play. There was actually a clean pocket for him to deliver that ball. So, look, again, last year, I talked to guys about that offense last year, and there were times where we saw the great plays, and everyone's in awe, and it's on SportsCenter. And yes, he deserves the credit for that. But in a lot of those plays, there were actually, the first read was open, and if he just delivers the ball on time, it's an easy touchdown and an easy first down. I want Trey to be great and make those great plays when need be, but you still have to go through your progression. He's last in the league right now in yards per attempt, 5.7 yards per attempt. And if he was going through his progressions and that was just their offense, fine. A lot of that is because he's not going through his progression to get the ball down the field.
How much of that do you think, Ches, is Trey Ford, and how much is that is Jordan McSimmons? Because I know you're talking about he's got to help himself, but how much help does he need, too?
You just saw that play right there that was illustrated. The pocket was absolutely clean. There's 2 open receivers in a clean pocket, and he's bailing out. So I'm not writing off Trey Ford.
No,
I'm talking about this half right now and what I've seen. And again, he needs to clean
and
that
also,
up.
too, kudos to the Alouettes defense.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that you're arguably playing one of the best defenses in the league as well, but you want to see the progression. You want to see the growth in him, and just so far, we have yet to see that.
Immense talent.
24-6 currently for the Montreal Alouettes. Coming up after the break, it's straight fire. They're straight fire.
Rise up, line and glare, turn my mic up. High up, gold medal, something not clutch. You better get ready, cause soon time's up. Are you hyped up? Yes, I'm getting hyped up. Rise up, line and glare, turn my mic up. High up, gold medal, something not clutch. You better get ready, cause soon time's up.
Week 3 continues tomorrow night with a little Friday Night Football. Saskatchewan Roughriders, I'm pretty sure they stayed in Eastern Canada. Why wouldn't they? Taking on the Toronto Argonauts, very beat-up Argos at this point. And then it is a doubleheader on Saturday. The Red Blacks taking on the Stampeders, and then a rematch of last week between the Blue Bombers and the Lions. And guess what? We had so much fun on the road opening week. They're sending us back on the road.
We got more?
We are going to BC. We will see everyone in Vancouver. Can't wait for that one. Oh, and not like before the commercial break when it was a fake straight fire. This now is the real straight fire. We have some fabulous plays. Chezzy, kick us off.
Flag football from London, Ontario. Get a look at this one-handed grab from Nick McKenzie. He goes up over 2 defenders. Ooh. And by the way, guys, try to make a play there. They also got a good look at Nick McKenzie. It's Catch of the Year candidate, Straight Fire.
U10 Championship in Victoria. Nice grab here by Elks receiver Joshua Procession. But the run, that's even better. He's got the shades going on, no big deal. Some would call that elite. Finds the end zone. That's Straight Fire.
Thousand Islands Minor Football League. We got James Cowan. Whoa, look at that interception, the reaction. Look at that high step and going all the way to the end zone. Low man trying to make a tackle. No, he just wants to get off. Straight Fire!
This is a full team event here. Canadian PGA Tour pro Adam Hadwin. Oh, you know what? This is the thing with some athletes. They just bother me. Like, you ever been out with hockey players? You go to the golf course and they shoot like a 62? That's the same. Adam Hadwin, that's a beauty kick. That was from 50 yards out. That's incredible.
I think his name is O-Dog, that golf score.
I know. I was just giving him little props on that one. By the way, send your videos over to straightfire@bellmedia.ca. Those were some nice ones. But you know what, Ches? We got your own Straight Fire, right?
Whoa! What we got going on here? What do we have going on here?
This is what Chesy does getting onto set. A little BTS for you at home.
He was just excited about Straight Fire. He was just excited.
You're welcome, ladies. You're welcome. That's what we do. You want to do it live for everyone, Ches?
That's great.
Come on, man. You're
what we do off camera is supposed to stay off.
Absolutely not when you do ridiculous things like that. Come on.
That was Straight Fire!
You guys got jokes, huh? Surprise.
I love this.
Thursday night, halftime in Edmonton, and the Elks are down. It's all Montreal so far, leading it 24-6 if you discount when they ran up the clock at the end. The Alouettes have scored in all but one possession, 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Big difference in terms of net yards and a great first half for Alouette quarterback Davis Alexander. Big test for the Edmonton defense and Tyrell Ford, who was standing by with Tom Gazzola.
Tyrell down 18 at the half. Just how would you assess that first half of football from your point of view?
I mean, we had 2 jobs on defense, contain the quarterback and don't blow coverage, don't drop coverage. And we did both. We did both those. So we gave both those up. So, I mean, we just got to stop making mistakes like that and we'll be fine.
How much of it is their quarterback and the way he can slip in and out and find some weapons?
I mean, he's good, but we're good too. We just got to do our job.
Appreciate the time, Tyrell.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, what more can you say as he tries to improve his career start total to 7-0? He's in a very good start in this one tonight.
Yeah, Davis Alexander, you can just feel the confidence grow with each successive start and each victory. It looked terrific in the first half, and you think about the confidence with which he threw a couple of those deep balls early. I think really speaks to where Davis Alexander's mindset is right now. He believes.
And the Alouettes certainly believed in him enough to let Cody Fajardo leave. After Fajardo had won a Grey Cup with them, Grey Cup MVP, their top quarterback last year, briefly hurt. Alexander got his shot, and they liked what they saw to make that move. And asking Jason Moss about it earlier this week, does it validate the decision? And he said, no, it was already validated to us. We already believed him. And he spoke very highly, by the way, of Cody Fajardo and everything that they've been through. But for Moss, there was no question this was the way to go. And everything is proving that this season so far through 2.5 games for the Alouettes. And leading this one by 18, the second half to begin. Montreal had deferred after winning the toss. They want the ball to start the second half. They've got it. James Letcher at the 20. And gets with flags coming down upwards of the 30. As mentioned, the Alouettes have scored in just about every possession. A little pushing and shoving after the fact there.
We'll wait the call as Davis Alexander prepares to go to work here.
During the return, holding Montreal number 42. 10-yard penalty. First down, Montreal.
So they'll start a little bit further back. They had one possession where they had to start deep in their zone. Out of their possessions, only punting once. Here's another look at that penalty.
Much far right side of your screen. Little takedown around the neck. Terrell Richards draws the flag.
Alexander on pace for his best passing performance of his young career. Second half begins on that hitch to Mack, who lost the football. I guess they say no catch. Into the hands and looked to turn around and take off and didn't have the ball. Niles Morgan picked it up, but it's still Alouette football.
Looking for a quick hitter to get things started here in the second half. Austin Mack knowing he's got to get upfield in a hurry. Let that one get away.
Never a catch, 2nd and 10. Right after 10. Alexander quickly completes it. It was good coverage there just in front of the football, but it is Mack hanging on to that one and a first down for the Owls.
Immediately back to Austin Mack, driving up first down yardage. He's got a little bit of a cushion there, so just sits it down. Just beyond the outstretched fingers. One of the Edmonton underneath defenders there.
So it gets out to the 22. Handing off this time to Sean Thomas Erlington, breaking tackles, getting up to the 30. Thomas Erlington, who was hurt in the first half, but came back on and is having a solid day on the ground for the Alouettes.
Again, Montreal filling that running back position a little bit by committee. We've seen a lot of Sean Thomas Erlington through these first 3 weeks of the season, but Travis Tice was on the roster for the first couple games. He had a lot of the carries down the stretch as they closed it out against Ottawa.
Buying space and on the ground again, and this time with nothing. Robbie Smith, one of the newcomers, Jake Serezza as well, former Argos, in on that tackle to stuff the run and no gain. A lot of ex-Argos up on that defensive front. Jared Brinkman as well. And Brandon Barlow, who's most recently with Hamilton but started with Toronto. So a revamped defense up front too for Edmonton. And it's the second time in this game that Joseph Zima will punt to Javon Leake. Edmonton down 18. Looking to chip away at that when they get the ball back. Zima off to the right. And a 51-yard punt. Leake takes it inside the 30. Dancing around, trying to cut it back up, but there's just nowhere to go. Regis Sibasu on special teams coverage for the Alouettes. Back comes Trey Ford, 24-6, Thursday night in Edmonton.
The Montreal Alouettes defense getting after it again here in the early going. A lot of pressure on Trey Ford. Again, seeing different looks. Coming up with a big turnover to end that first half. Kabian Ento helping out to get that pick. Prevent the Elks from getting any late points in the first half. We'll see what Trey Ford, Jordan Maximic, and the Edmonton offense have in store here.
Handing off to Javon Leake, left side and first down to Kwa and then the pack with Ento there too, and Darnell Sankey to take him down. Gets it up just across the 35. Noel Thorpe's defense, yeah, they had that interception late by Ento. How huge was that? They've had a sack and around 140 yards. That's it for Trey Ford and the Edmonton offense. That's after holding the Argos to 10 points in week 1 and doing another nice job defensively against the Ottawa Red Blacks last week. I guess the one thing missing is a defensive touchdown in this game, Dwayne.
Well, trying to keep the streak alive.
They had one defensive touchdown in each of the first 2 weeks. Throwing, second down, it is caught, it is a first down. That one completed to Curly Gittins, his second catch of this game.
And I know that's the kind of play you heard Davis Sanchez talk about at halftime, is just consistently making those simple plays. Curly Gittins inside slot, defense is backed off. Just a quick hitter, get the ball out quickly. Move those sticks.
Up to the 44 and a first down. Elks trying to sustain a drive and get into the end zone and get this thing closer. That is complete. So short passing again at Zach Mathis. Forced out there by Lorenzo Byrne. Second down coming up. tackle on the Alouettes, got hurt in the first half with a lower body injury. His day is done. So an injury to Montreal's defense. 2nd and 6 after that pickup. Mathis, and with time and running out of it, and sacked. The 2nd sack of this game for the Montreal Alouettes, and Jeffrey Quentin-Arcou forcing Edmonton to punt it away.
There you see Quentin-Arcou so often, guy listed as a linebacker, but so often when he checks into the ball game, you see him playing close to the line of scrimmage, often rushing the quarterback, that time faking the drop, delaying until the blockers were engaged, and then going. Creative call and execution there from Noel Thorpe and Jeffrey Quentin-Arcou.
Brace to punt it away. Owls dropping back to set up a return here for James Letcher. Takes it after a 40-yard punt and works it up close to the 50. So many times Trey Ford is able to escape when the pressure comes. Not that time. Jeffrey Quentin-Arcou just won't let him get away. Trying to silence this crowd in Edmonton. More soccer coming up on the network, too. The UEFA Women's Euro. It'll take place in Switzerland from July 2nd to the 27th. You can watch every match live here on TSN. Trey Ford, Cody Fajardo. Fajardo the backup now for being a starter in Montreal. Frustrating night so far for that Edmonton offense. The Elks in general, they're down by 18, and Alexander back to work. Completes that to Tyson Philpott and Niles Morgan and Nick Anderson, top 2 tacklers in the Canadian Football League last year, teaming up on that one. And Anderson, the Rookie of the Year in the CFL.
You hear the pop on that one. Lead and steel. And for those 2 guys, as a Muhammad Ali fan, one doesn't get you, the other one will.
Right. Well, what a 1-2 punch they have had on that Edmonton defense. Alexander again. Cole Speaker, not used as often, but ever reliable, and makes that catch for a first down to keep this drive going.
Yeah, Davis Alexander spreading the ball around a bit. Look how open the middle of the field is. 2 receivers crossing through there. Cole Speaker just sitting down. Easy pickings for Davis Alexander.
To the Montreal 47. There's Speaker in his 3rd year out of Wisconsin lacrosse. Alexander throwing that off to Tyler Sneed, who gets up to midfield, takes a pop, just a couple of yards shy of a first down.
We've seen this look from Montreal a couple of times. Slow down that pass rush a bit with some play action. Hit Tyler Sneed out in the flat. A couple of pretty good quarterbacks providing the tutelage in the play calls for Davis Alexander and Jason Moss, and of course Anthony Calvillo.
After that gain of 8, 2nd and 2, taking the handoff, rolling to the right and underneath, and that is complete to Jacob Mason. And one of the fullbacks, David Dallaire, getting a touchdown. He's there to congratulating him, and down is Davis Alexander after that play. Took a hit after tossing it underhand for another good gain for the Alouettes and a first down, but there is a concern for Montreal as Alexander goes down and the medical staff comes on and McLeod Bethel Thompson warms up.
Yeah, well, keep an eye initially here on Alexander. After the toss, yeah, you see him grab his hamstring just as he threw that football, hobbled to the sideline.
So not even hit, non-contact, just on that play. And
yeah, even before he threw the ball.
So trying to loosen up, get some attention. We'll see McLeod Bethel Thompson, who played here in Edmonton last year. This was a moment ago. Davis Alexander going off on his own, so a good sign for the Alouettes, Dwayne. After this happened, looked like he's favoring his left hamstring.
Yeah, just as he gets out on the sprint. Grab it high on that hamstring, comes up hobbling, immediately signaling to the bench. Brings on one McLeod, Bethel Thompson.
They remember him here in Edmonton, and he hands off, so they go with a running play on the first down, and they are in the Elks zone, and McLeod, Bethel Thompson, mostly with the Argos, but after a year away in 23, he was with the Elks here in 2024, and a look at what he did with Edmonton.
Again, pretty good numbers, but an Elks team that struggled to win. Out of the gate, 0-7 to start last season.
Passing this time and completing it to Speaker. Cole Speaker has it down close to the Montreal 30. A flag does come out. Back at the line of scrimmage. And it's against Montreal.
Legal block hands to the face, Montreal number 66. 10-yard penalty, repeat second down.
That's in the left guard, Pierre-Olivier Lestage, on that second down and 7 play. So instead, it pushes them back to midfield now in a second and long.
Keep an eye on that matchup. He had Robbie Smith coming on the inside. Second and long situation. We'll see what the Argos revamped defensive line can do here.
McLeod, Bethel Thompson, and he swings it up to Stevie Scott. Across midfield, but not much more. 2-3 yards and a third down coming up here. And we will wait to see if McLeod, Bethel Thompson will be coming on the next time Montreal gets the ball, and Davis Alexander getting some attention at the Alouette sideline.
I wonder if this could prove to be a turning point in this ball game.
Zima. Sorry, Dwayne, standing inside his 45.
I think of the year Javon Leake had a couple years ago in Toronto, wondering if he may be able to provide a spark in the return game.
They could use it. That one, though, beautifully done by Zima, although he didn't get the roll out at the end he would have wanted. Instead, it heads into the end zone. So put another point on the board for the Alouettes on that Rouge. Trey Ford back on. Elks trailing third quarter 25-6. Week 3 in the CFL will continue tomorrow. Friday night football. Nick Arbuckle, Trevor Harris, Saskatchewan Roughriders, and A.J. Ouellette. He's back. His old stomping ground in Toronto. And looking sharp in that last game in Hamilton. Devontae Coxey. The Argos off to an 0-2 start. The Riders off to a 2-0 start. Alexander and the Alouette sideline talking to Tyson Philpott, trying to stretch things out. Looked like a problem with his left hamstring, and still hoping to get back into this game. McLeod, Bethel Thompson was in at quarterback last possession for Montreal, but the ball in the hands of Trey Ford and the Edmonton Elks right now. And if you look at his last 2 games, Dwayne, he was on pace for a career best start and a high end in passing yardage. That actually came last week against the Red Blacks.
Yeah, big game, 344 yards through the air for Davis Alexander a week ago, and over 200 in the first half here tonight.
254 when he went out. It's Rankin, so they try to get the ground game going. And down by 19 points past the midway point here of the third quarter.
When you're Edmonton, you certainly hope you could somewhere along the way find that one big play, some kind of spark. Looked like they might get it with the pass to Zach Mathis late in the first half. Kabianento swooped in and snuffed out those plans.
That looked like a touchdown, didn't it? He was he had that window when he was wide open, and Ento closed quickly and had the pick. 3-man rush. Time for Ford, completes it to, that's Arkell Smith. And a good opener, BC Place on offense and special teams, and gets a rough ride out of bounds there. After a Gets his first on the night. First catch for Smith.
Urkel Smith is just going to motion out. Motion across the formation, working out into the flat.
Gets up to the 52 and a first down. Off to the left. Throwing again to Mathis. Completes that across midfield with Cabianento there. So Ford and the Elks got something brewing here as they venture into Alouette territory.
And Trey Ford and Zach Mathis demonstrating a little bit of chemistry here. Obviously, lots of time spent together, as I know Mathis has been a tenant in the Ford house for a couple of years. But there's part of the benefit, again. I always hate when the supplemental draft comes around and they make reference to a team forfeiting its pick in the first round this year because they used it in the supplemental. No, they didn't forfeit the pick. They used the pick a year early and used it to get good value, I believe, in Zach Mathis.
Used it well. 2nd and 5. Pressure on Ford. Can't get away again. Isaac Adeyemi Berglund. Lowell Uguak were in there pursuing, and it's the 3rd sack of the night for the Montreal Alouettes as Ford cannot escape.
Isaac Adeyemi Berglund coming from the top of your screen. Quick swim to the inside. Obviously a high motor guy. Managing to trip up the Elks quarterback there. A great signing he's proven to be.
Let's go.
For Montreal.
They counted us out.
So the Elks drive stalls, forced to punt. 3rd sack of the season. Adeyemi Berglund. And it heads out of bounds. No chance at all there for Letcher. One of the prominent defenders, as mentioned, was the Rookie of the Year last year, Nick Anderson. Let's go back to Tom.
Yeah, guys, Nick Anderson, a real appreciation for the game last year. Most Outstanding Rookie of the Year award for Anderson. A great year tackle-wise. Him and Niles Morgan, formidable linebackers for the Elks. Now, he was almost out of the game. He didn't get much when it came to opportunities after his time with the New Orleans Saints until Chris Jones came calling. The former Elks general manager and head coach met with him in Jackson, Mississippi. Said, what do you think about the CFL? Anderson, I don't really know much about the game and the league. Watched the Saskatchewan Roughriders Edmonton Elks game on YouTube. Started working out at soccer fields to get ready for the upcoming camp in 2024. And he said as soon as he put on the pads and got out there for his first practice session with the Elks, he knew he loved this game more than anything, and he's grateful and appreciative as he makes a tackle there, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tom, he just added to his tackle total, although the bad news is for Edmonton, it's after another long game for Tyson Philpott.
Yeah, well executed. Little hitch out to Tyson Philpott. They get it blocked up as he finds the path back to the inside. But credit Nick Anderson. He's involved in the pass rush at the line of scrimmage, and he ends up being the guy to track down the Alouette receiver.
All the way to the 46 of Edmonton. And on another pitch, Charleston Rambo, and a little less, but a similar result, at least bursting through and getting it down. A flag coming out, though, as he got it just inside the Edmonton 30.
Get another look at Nick Anderson in action. He gets blocked up by the human eclipse there, Jamar McGloster, but still manages to get in on the tackle.
Get a buyout. 61 Montreal. 61 Montreal.
The big right tackle, Jamar McGloster.
Illegal low block, Edmonton number 13. It's 10-yard penalty. It's first down.
Cordell Jackson, the one who's flagged for the illegal block there, and another good game. McLeod Bethel Thompson still in at quarterback, and a couple of successful short passes and penalties. Down to the 20. Bethel Thompson in for the injured Davis Alexander. Handing off, going nowhere. Coming right in is Jared Brinkman. And then he gets a little bit of help in Sean Thomas Earlington. So like a little loss of a couple of yards there for the Owls.
Well, I talked earlier about the Elks clear agenda to improve their Canadian talent in free agency. The other rather obvious agenda item for them was to improve the D-line, right? A completely revamped group. These guys, collectively, when you look at Smith, Brickman, Ceresna last season, were all in Toronto, where they were absolutely terrific. And I think they're looking for these guys to be dominant and more consistent plays like that from their front four.
Setting up a screen to Thomas Erlington, who spins. And he gets back just inside the 20, not nearly enough. Field goal unit to be coming on. And an injured player, and that's their middle linebacker, Niles Morgan, on that play. Like Nick Anderson, those two forming such a formidable tandem defensively in that linebacking core for Edmonton. And Morgan is down.
Yeah, certainly leaders of that group. We had the opportunity to talk a little bit with Nick Anderson this week, and he talked about the chemistry, the unspoken communication between he and Niles Morgan. Now in their second season working together, how they just really have a feel for what each other are going to do. There you see the middle linebacker, number 45, Niles Morgan. Veteran Elk. Looks like he may have caught a cleat in the turf here just as he went to make the tackle.
He had quickly got up, no signs of being injured after the tackle was made.
I think his
and there
kind of bounced up on the momentum of his roll, allowed him to get up quickly, but realized he had kind of tweaked something. Looked like he was reaching for his knee.
So Jose Maltos is on to attempt a field goal and see if he can make it a 28-6 lead, 22-point lead for Montreal if he's good. Mentioned a perfect 6 for 6 in Ottawa last night. There's only one miss. That was in week 1 against the Argos. And 26. He's good. 3 more on the board for Montreal.
Power, precision, performance. The Lincoln Navigator Cup. Who will have their mic drop moment? July 1st, only on TSN.
Jason Moss, his team just gone up a little bit more. Moss coming back to Edmonton, where he's had a lot of success with the Alouettes against his old team. One of them, Niles Morgan. Good to see he's up and around after that injury, but the hole gets a little deeper for the Elks. Late here in the third quarter, down now 22 points after that field goal by Maltos. Trey Ford, 12 of 15, but only 76 yards and a pick. Rolling to his right to throw again. Does deep right, open Dunbar. Stephen Dunbar with the catch. Kind of big play. That Elks offense needs a lot of right now.
Well, nice job in protection here. Get Trey Ford out on the edge. You know, and maybe something of his comfort zone. Look at the right foot. Just in bounds. 40-yard pickup down the rail for Stephen Dunbar. As you mentioned earlier on, his second stint here in Edmonton. Started his career in Hamilton. Came to Edmonton for a year as a free agent. Back to Hamilton for a year, and now returning to the green and gold.
Biggest offensive play for Edmonton in this game. Flushed out of the pocket. Dumping it off for Mathis. And he backpedals after catching it. That's in the last play of the third quarter. This should be quarter time now. And it is. Edmonton again has something going, but they need more than just something going, and they move down the field. They need points, a whole lot of them in the final 15. Alouettes add to the lead, 28-6, heading to the fourth. Through 3 quarters, the Alouettes in front, 28-6. They lost quarterback Davis Alexander, but still managed to put more points on the board with McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
Yeah, and really not missing a beat. Bethel-Thompson, they gave him a couple of quick hitters, got the hitch game going. using both Philpott and Charleston Rambo to, I think, let him get a little bit of confidence, let him get in a little bit of a groove, and obviously with a veteran guy, that didn't seem to take long.
And the defense, too, of course. Good performances in the first two games. That continues. Only 6 points on the board so far for Montreal. And got some pressure in Trey Ford and able to stop him as well. Davis Alexander. It looks like he wants to come back in, but no official word on whether or not his day is done. You think with this lead heading to the fourth and that defense playing the way it's playing, that might be it for him. Handing off Justin Rankin. They got it down inside the 20. They've got a first down. So the Elks looking for that end zone. They've got a couple of field goals. Still no touchdowns in the night.
Justin Rankin doing what he does. Lowering his shoulders and moving the pile here. To advance the sticks and give the Edmonton Elks a fresh set of downs. Fresh off that big play we were looking for. Trey Ford to Stephen Dunbar. That has Edmonton thinking end zone here.
That was a 40-yard play. Gets him down closer. They're inside the 20. And handing off to Rankin again. And just not much doing there. A crowd at Emmy Berglund and Beverett. And Taraku. Good job. This Alouette defense. This has been a trademark. And Jason Moss's time and even before. But the defensive talent they had, certainly in their Grey Cup year and since.
Yeah, it's funny when the most outstanding player, defensive player in the East Division a year ago, Therese Beverett, a guy who has just filled every column of the stat sheet the last couple of years, has had a quiet day.
Pressure on Trey Ford. Being chased. Gets into the end zone for an Edmonton touchdown. 18 yards, Trey Ford. He escaped the pocket, and that time, Montreal could not stop him.
Legal contact, Montreal number 32. Penalties decline. Results play with the touchdown.
And you'll watch right about here. Joel Uguak is thinking he really is as fast as they say. Trey Ford getting around the corner in a hurry. Find the end zone. Big play sparked him. See if the Elks can continue this momentum.
So that gets it down to 16 points. They're going to see if they can get it down to 14, going for 2 here. Early fourth quarter, and Edmonton finally finds the end zone. Trey Ford, pressure coming, end zone. Nice catch. Justin Rankin. Had to make a nice grab. He was in alone, but he hangs on. And so an 8-point drive for the Alouettes. The big part of it here. The touchdown run for Trey Ford. Edmonton still down 14, but finally have something going. Trey Ford getting his ankle taped after a 6-play, 75-yard drive that he ended with that 18-yard run for the touchdown.
Yeah, signs of life here for the Edmonton Elks. Here we'll see the speed of Trey Ford. You know, and this is a guy who is not just fast for a quarterback. Like, Trey Ford is a guy who, if he were a receiver, running back, defensive back, whatever, would still be considered fast. A legit 4-4 guy gets around the corner and then throws that dart to Justin Rankin. If you remember, Rankin originally came into camp last year as a receiver.
And they try the short kick, and it's Hakeem Harris, the rookie receiver, part of the draft class of 25 for the Alouettes on special teams, alertly picking up that ball as Edmonton tried to catch the Alouettes napping on that short kick try.
Yeah, certainly did. And not a bad call for Edmonton at this time, because I think from a Montreal perspective, maybe one you might not expect them to expect until later in the game, but clearly Byron Archambault had his group prepared. Hakeem Harris all over that one. First-year man out of Davenport University, D2 school.
Major foul, roughing the passer. Edmonton number 94. Up 15 yards from the end of the play, an automatic first down.
So very quickly on the heels of the short kick and the penalty, the Alouettes find themselves in that offensive green zone.
Seresna back in Edmonton, where he spent much of his career. Started in Ottawa. He had 1 year in Toronto last year after leaving the Elks, and comes right back as a free agent. Penalized there, and yeah, momentum swing. Just as Edmonton had something going. And they got a blitz coming, and Bethel Thompson gets rid of it, but no, a little too far for Sneed, right around the 10. Falls incomplete. Second down. Yeah, I mean, they're in scoring range again, and Sneed again.
Yeah, just out of his reach as he's running that quick slant from the outside. You know, I'm sure that there will be some debate about the decision to short kick at that time. As I said, I don't mind it because I think you're hoping doing it at that time that
if it works, it's brilliant.
Yes, right? Exactly.
Second down. Flags out. They get Bethel Thompson. MPT goes down. Noah Taylor in there and the pressure, and Jalen Garnes, their first-year Elk.
Sacks are going to be 3 over.
Indication offside against
Offside.
Montreal.
Montreal number 85. Penalties declined. It's third down.
Already in field goal range, so they declined. And field goal situation coming up here for Jose Maltos.
Sean Garnes in on the play, a newcomer this season. Noah Taylor, I thought, was a nice mid-season addition for the Elks last year. Nice add to their defensive line rotation.
Jose Maltos 2 for 2. Longest to 26. This one coming outside the 30. 3 for 3. With his trademark, show me your right biceps. Jason Moss's team answer with 3 back. Has not been an easy home debut for that man. Mark Hillen, born in Edmonton, moved to Lethbridge and coached in other parts in Alberta. Cochrane won championships there in high school. Of course, Calgary Stampeders there for 2 decades, and many of them spent as special teams coordinator.
Yeah, and a guy who's been talked about as a head coaching candidate in this league for a number of years.
And his offense on the field and a deep shot from Ford. He wants Dunbar. A flag comes out. Ento in the coverage. And doesn't like the call, but it was just one-on-one. And looks like Ento gets flagged as they do pick up a lot of yardage on the penalty here.
I think there could be some debate about the catchability of this football when you see where it lands. But yeah, maybe if Dunbar, a taller receiver, is able to keep his stride, he has a chance to maybe go up and get that one before it drifts out of bounds.
Accidental pass interference, Montreal number 48. This is a 10-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
So not spotted the foul. The accidental part still works in the Elks' favor, but just 10 yards instead.
Yeah, clearly you can see the right call as their feet got tangled. Both guys are just running.
Ento still doesn't agree, but that'll move it up to the 50 of the Elks and down 31-14. Needing more big plays. 17-point difference. Ford wants to load up, loses the ball as he's taken down, and Isaac Adeyemi Berglund falls on it. His second fumble recovery, the other one in week 1, went for a touchdown against the Argos. And what a great start for the runner-up and top Canadian last year, Isaac Adeyemi Berglund. They got heat on Ford, and he couldn't hang on to the ball.
top of the screen, backside. Tyrese Beverett, be credited with the strip. Ademi Berglund was right there after the Elks quarterback. There to leap on that football. And as I mentioned, great free agent signing, I think, for Montreal. This is a guy who, after high school, went to Cégep in Quebec. Champlain, Lennoxville. Got a French immersion student through high school. In Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. So very comfortable in the province of Quebec, in Montreal, feeling right at home. But even sort of economically speaking in the Canadian Football League, to me, this is a young guy who is continuing to improve, hasn't reached his ceiling yet. Just continuing to get better, more of a force this year already than he was last season.
Not a bad start to the season. He's got three sacks, got the couple of fumble recoveries and a touchdown. So after the carry by Thomas Erlington, it's in the hands of Cole Speaker down inside the 25. And that will be a first down. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, the quarterback, since the injury earlier in the half to Davis Alexander.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier Davis Alexander, champing at the bit a little bit on the sidelines to get back in this ball game. But I mean, this is part of the reason you go out and get a veteran. Davis Alexander, we hope, will be fine, ready to play the next game. But you've got a veteran guy in whom you have faith that you don't have to put Davis Alexander in a compromised position here.
Both of these teams certainly fit when it comes to quarterback depth. And back on the ground, and a big carry here for Sean Thomas Erlington, and another Alouette touchdown. Flies into the end zone. That running TD, 23 yards. And Montreal really opening it up now. Points off the turnover. And that fumble recovery by Isaac Adeyemi Berglund, and it leads to a Montreal touchdown.
Yeah, you look at a couple of short fields back-to-back after the attempted short kick by Edmonton, recovered by Hakeem Harris. And here the fumble recovery, setting up the short field, setting the stage for that Sean Thomas Erlington touchdown run.
First rushing touchdown of this season for Sean Thomas Erlington. And here in week 3 already, a more productive year on the ground than he had in all of 2024. Back with his hometown Alouettes after starting his career in Hamilton. And loving his time now as their starting running back. But yeah, this play here set everything up, Dwayne.
Yeah, not a defensive touchdown, which the Alouettes have had in each of their first 2 games, but certainly points off a turnover. As in short order, Sean Thomas Erlington makes the Elks pay.
Took 2 minutes and a second off the clock to go 36 yards and move ahead 38-14. This Montreal team, they started great last year too. We'll remember how they ended in 2023, winning 9 straight, including the Grey Cup, and then they won their first 5 before they lost last season. And looking at a 3-0 start here, Arkell Smith and the kick return. Trey Ford is coming back on now. There have been flashes, but overall just not enough from that offense. He's 15 of 18, but 126 yards, 40 coming on one play to Stephen Dunbar, and he's had 1 interception.
Yeah, and I'm sure there will be discussion, obviously. Speculation is part of life in the world of pro sports. And, about the possibility of getting Cody Fajardo into this football game. You know, yeah, Trey Ford has had his ups and downs, as you say. There have been flashes. It's a struggle. This Montreal defense is a struggle for far more experienced quarterbacks than Trey Ford. But the one thing about Cody Fajardo is, you see, last win in the month of June for Edmonton goes back to 2019. Cody Fajardo, for as confusing as the Alouettes defense is, he's practiced against this defense every day for the last 2 years.
From the Edmonton 37. Interesting fact from our statistician Dave Moore about that last time that they won in June 2019. And who was their head coach back then? I think he's in the building.
Jason Moss.
Jason Moss was. That was his last year. He had 4 seasons as head coach in Edmonton. His last game, actually, was in the Eastern Final. They crossed over, but his last victory as head coach in Edmonton came in Montreal. Beat the Alouettes. Upset them. Second and 2. Rankin has to fight for it. He does get it. Just barely. And I am sure the Alouettes will be happy to see Edmonton keep running the football.
You know, as we talk a little bit about the possibility of Cody Fajardo getting into the football game, and, you know, I mean, Trey Ford is your starter. You take him out to avoid the risk of injury in a game that you may perceive as out of reach. But I think part of the thing here is Trey Ford needs to continue to get reps in this offense, right? This is only the second game of the year for Edmonton.
Completed to Arkell Smith across midfield. Lorenzo Burns. Oh, the Elks want a flag there for that high tackle by Burns on Smith. Gain of 13 yards. First down, Edmonton.
Fans here looking for a horse collar call, by the way this went, but let's see. He grabs the front. He didn't grab the back. He grabbed the front of the shoulder pads. Good job by Burns to reach. Make that play.
Swinging it in for Rankin, just a bit too far. He cannot hang on to that. Najee Murray was coming in, so a 2nd and 10 coming up. We're halfway through the 4th quarter.
My producer, Chris Edwards. We're debating as to whether this was should be called a horse collar tackle. Rod, you're the tiebreaker.
I'm the tiebreaker. I can't go against my producer. That is caught. That's Stephen Dunbar. Wesley Sutton there, but 6 catch for number 6, Dunbar. Down to the 33, the Alouettes.
Stephen Dunbar, one of the bright spots for Edmonton here offensively tonight.
First down, deep look, down at the 5, touchdown. Curly Gittens. And the coverage was right there. Hung on to the ball and just fell into the end zone.
And felt a little bit like no one was yelling ball when the ball was in the air here. You'll see Curly Gittens Jr. Maybe Marc-Antoine Dubois just misjudged the trajectory of that one.
33 yards, 3rd catch on the night for Gittens. 6 plays, 73 yards, the drive for the Elks. So they get the touchdown. 38-21. The score. Trey Ford trying to keep him in it. Running out of time, though. 6:04 on the clock.
Curly Gittens Jr. with the touchdown. Marc-Antoine Dubois manned up on him. Tywone Mullen, listed as the nickel linebacker, is essentially the free safety here. So Dubois, the number 3 receiver, he's running with his hip. Mullen a little late to get over there. Ball thrown to the outside by Trey Ford. Allows Curly Gittens Jr. to make that catch just over the defender and into the end zone. A little interesting to me that the Alouettes didn't go for 2, as the 1-point convert leaves them down 17, a 3-possession game. 2-point convert
would have made it 2 scores.
Yeah, the Elks would have been down 2 possessions.
By 16, so it's Letcher on the return. And now the defense for Edmonton really has to stand up. It's out of Amaga Clements, good special teamer for the Elks out of Nebraska. Back comes McLeod Bethel Thompson in at quarterback much of the second half after the injury to Davis Alexander. Tyrell Ford talking to Tom Gazzola before the start of the second half that they had things that they need to do to give themselves a chance. They haven't been doing it, and then there's still time, and they just have to do it. They have to execute. That is so true right now. 38-21 now. 2 and out. It'd be nice for Edmonton's defense, and that's a good start as they stuff the runner. Nick Anderson in there, and no gain at all for the Alouettes.
Well, one of the things Jason Moss talked about is one of the greatest positives he took away from Montreal's Week 2 win in Ottawa was the way they closed out the game. They were able to run the ball very effectively down the stretch of that game, not give Ottawa a chance to get a possession and get back into it. Travis Tice had a lot of the carries down the stretch. He's not in the lineup tonight. It's Stevie Scott and Sean Thomas Erlington.
Scott in there now. Flares out. Bethel Thompson. He's going to take on it. Oh, and leaping as well. McLeod Bethel Thompson. Not known as much for his running, but he picks up 7 yards there. But it is the 2 and out that the Elks defense so desperately need. And they'll be presumably getting the ball back very soon.
McLeod Bethel Thompson going airborne over the tackle of Nick Anderson.
He heads off. That's the first 2 and out for Montreal's offense in this game tonight. Joseph Zima on. Montreal under 5 minutes, 4:20 to go. Javon Leake, he picks it up, gets it up across the 25. There's Dwayne Mandrusiak, longtime legendary equipment manager. Now we can say in his 50th season with Edmonton as he's brought back by the organization. Let's go back to Tom.
Yeah, Rod, a good story all around with Dwayne Mandrusiak coming back for his 50th season. A lot of people are very happy about that around here, as well as Al's head coach Jason Moss, who said he is grateful that his former teammates Ed Hervey and Chris Morris brought Mandrusiak back. He says that Mandrusiak's one of the first guys that he thinks of with the Edmonton organization anytime he's thinking about the green and gold. And he says he's got nothing but the utmost respect for Mandrusiak, who started with the club way back in 1971. This year, guys, joint role community and historian, perfect for Mandrusiak, who's in his 60s now.
Absolutely, Tom. No question. Lowell Uguak throwing up the ball. They punched it out at Justin Rankin, but not ruled a fumble as his progress had stopped. That red in there.
Yeah, Rankin. Kind of an awkward position. He was held up, so he hadn't gone down, but as you said, if his forward progress was ruled stopped, the play was dead.
I just want to follow up what Tom is talking about.
Absolutely.
With Dwayne Mandrusiak, you think, as you look at this this again, punched out by Adeyemi Berglund. But you think of what Dwayne Mandrusiak experienced with this organization, their legendary years in the 70s and the early 80s when they won the Grey Cup 5 straight times. He was there.
The ruling on the field is that forward progress is stopped by the ball carrier at second down.
He knew that such a well-respected equipment manager for decades in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, well, I think so often of the long-time equipment managers in this league, guys like Dwayne, George Hopkins in Calgary, Danny Webb in Toronto. Like, these guys are the lifeblood of the organization, and have typically longer histories than anyone in the organization. So you mentioned Dwayne's role now. He is obviously overqualified for the job, but great to see him back in green and gold.
It's Ford on the move in a 2nd and 9. Coming back for it is Gittins, who had a touchdown earlier. It's a catch for Curly Gittins. And by the way, you talked about George Hopkins, your old equipment manager in Calgary. The two of them, Mandrusiak and Hopkins, inducted into the Alberta Sport Hall of Fame this year.
And very deservedly so. Absolute legends.
Gittins, 4th catch. And some big ones, of course, the biggest being that touchdown grab that he had, the 33-yarder earlier. With 38-21, heading down to 3-minute time. And still lots of work to do, and that won't help as it falls in front of Javon Lake incomplete. The Elks are staring at an 0-2 start. June has not been kind in the last few years. 0-3, 0-9, 0-7. Those are the last 3 starts. Now, quite possibly 0-2 as Montreal looks to improve to 3-0.
Yeah, these teams, the reverse images of each other. Montreal, the team that has become great starters in recent years.
2nd and 10, Edmonton 47. And softer toss to Dunbar. And a good tackle on the play by Lorenzo Burns to halt him at the 50. And a 3rd down and long is coming in 3-down territory for the Edmonton Elks now, with a 3-minute warning being issued. And it's still the Alouettes comfortably leading it by 17. We'll be back. Week 3 continues. BMO Field in Toronto. Saskatchewan against the Argos, the defending champions, and another visit for A.J. Ouellette. A good game last week against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, in the Riders 2-0. The Argos, an 0-2 start. You can watch it Friday Night Football tomorrow night on TSN as Week 3 keeps going. It's the Elks. Zach Mathis grabbed there by Kavion Ento, and a 1st down for Edmonton. 2:44 to go.
Yeah, uphill battle down the stretch here for the Elks, but if they're going to go down, they're going to go down swinging. Just battling away here, Montreal. Can be a little bit more conservative, obviously, given the circumstances here.
Blitz coming. Dubois couldn't get him. Takes a long touchdown. Keon Julian Grant. 52 yards. Another big TD toss by Trey Ford. As Edmonton is not going quietly.
Just as I suggested that Montreal could be a little bit less aggressive, their free safeties at the line of scrimmage on the blitz. Marc-Antoine Dubois coming off the left edge. He almost has a shot at Trey Ford, but meanwhile on the back end, with no Dubois, the Elks and Keon Julian Grant are able to go over the top.
How good does that feel for number 11, who started his career out of St. FX with the Montreal Alouettes, and a touchdown catch in the Eastern Final last year. Julian Grant moving on to the Edmonton Elks, and he's got a TD against his old team, and 2.5 minutes. There have been greater comebacks in CFL history, you can be sure of that. It's down to 10 points, 2:35 in the clock, but once again, Edmonton needs their defense to stand strong.
Julian Grant gonna hit this one out of the slot. Just watch the gap in the middle of the field. Absolutely no one there. Ento trying to collapse on him from the outside. Mullen was deep in the middle, trying to get over there. McKay and Julian Grant does a nice job recognizing, splitting the two defenders. And Trey Ford throws another strike.
His second touchdown pass of this season, this night. Now, the Elks had only 2 field goals, 6 points in the first half. They have 22 points and 3 touchdowns in the second half. Mark Killam trying to keep them fired up here. And the importance, they get the ball back and get another chance, see if they can make it a 1-score game, and then who knows. Byron Archambault in the special teams for the Alouettes, an alert now. And there was a short kick try by Edmonton before that did not work out. More buzz in the crowd, though, at least, as Edmonton's offense has finally come to life here in the second half with big plays.
Still interesting, some open for some discussion, some debate on the 2-point converge, right? If they go for 2 on those last 2 touchdowns, and that puts them at 30 if they're successful, this is a 1-possession game with 2.5 to go.
Onside kick, they'll try it again, and it is in the hands of the Edmonton Elks. It works. Benjamin Victor. Now you saw it. Jacob Mason come in early before the ball had gone 10 yards. And now the officials are discussing this. So Mason of the Alouettes had a crack at it. And there is a player down. This from
previous plays under review by the replay center.
Yeah, I believe one of the Edmonton players, Zach Mathis, had the boom lowered on him by Vincent Gagné. Alexandre Gagné, excuse me.
The ruling on the field of a touch is confirmed. Edmonton first down.
So it works. Mason the first to touch it with the Alouettes, and Benjamin Victor on the Blanchard short kick gives Edmonton the football.
Well, big play on special teams. You can see Mark Killam over there drawing it up on the sidelines.
From the 43. And that is caught. A first down, Arkell Smith. Check that a couple of yards shy of the first down, but it crossed the 50. But Trey Ford's number is now 25 of 30 for 277. 2nd and 3 coming up. Pressure coming, and there are hands in the passing lane again for the Alouette defense, intended for Gittins, but 3rd down, Montreal.
And never a surprise with Montreal that there are hands in the passing lanes. Big part of what they do.
And a big 3rd down. Can they get the first down? Extend the drive. It's a deep look. And Gittins was open in behind Wesley Sutton, but the pass is too far that time. Falls incomplete. Turnover on downs. Montreal football in the Edmonton zone.
Yeah, good read. The shot was there as Gittins was in behind coverage. 3rd and 3, the Alouettes defense likely anticipating something shorter. Gittins, the middleman of those 3 receivers, into the boundaries, stems to the inside, bounces it out, gets in behind Sutton. That one just sails a little bit on Trey Ford.
So right around the 51 of the Edmonton Elks, the Alouettes offense back on. McLeod Bethel Thompson at quarterback. And handing off. Stevie Scott picks up 2, maybe 3 at most.
Timeout, Edmonton.
Big timeout coming here for the Elks. Still trying to get the ball back. 10-point deficit, 2:14 to go.
Defensive coordinator J.C. Sherritt.
What a great player he was.
Yeah, well, think about this guy, one of the great linebackers in CFL and Elks history, coaching a pretty good tandem. As we've talked about a lot, in Niles Morgan and Nick Anderson over there.
J.C. Sherritt was CFL Defensive Player of the Year back in 2012. At 8 solid seasons for the green and gold. Second and 8. There's a deep look. Flag comes out. Receiver Austin Mack turned around with Cordell Jackson there with him. Flag way back near the line of scrimmage. And this one will be against the
Offside,
Alouettes.
Montreal number 6. Penalties declined. It's third down.
So the Elks, 10 points down, 2:09 to go, will get the ball back. This time further back, presumably, on the punt coming up here from Joseph Zima.
Yeah, Elks are going to put 2 returners back because they don't want this ball to sort of get kicked to the wide side away from the returner. Don't want to let the ball get on the ground. They want to have a chance to return this.
So it'll be Curley getting to the top of the field among the returners, and at the bottom, Javon Leake. See where Joseph Zima places this one. Excellent directional kicker, puts it Gittens' way. 37-yard punt. And the flag does come out, getting up to the 20. Alex Gagne. Racking up the special teams tackles, by the way, so
In the
far
return,
this season.
illegal block. Edmonton number 38. 10-yard penalty, first down to Edmonton.
So the illegal block pushes them back that much further.
There you
Penalties
see.
half the distance from the 14-yard line.
That's a Margaret Clemens. Alex Elks are going, hey, let him know.
Yeah. Well, hey, an early leader in special teams tackles and had 8 already in 2 games coming into this one. From the end zone. Now again, receiver getting away, Gittens. Just slightly in behind, but that's too far.
You see Gittens coming out of the slot, the inside receiver here. Little change of pace type move. Again, just unable to connect.
Ford wanted a call. 2nd and 10. Under 2 minutes now. 1:53 on the clock from the Edmonton 7. Elks running out of time. Running out of chances. Ford has to take off. Now throws it, and it's high, and it's incomplete, and it's third down.
A little bit of a throw of hope there for Trey Ford, who's really not an Elks receiver in the territory. He looks like he's hobbling a little bit as well.
And Cody Grace is on to punt it out of the end zone. 1:45 at the clock. Down 10 points.
Oh, certainly flashes for the Elks offense, things to build on, but still lots of things to work on.
So Grace gets it away. And Montreal football in midfield is James Letcher, punt at 52, but it's getting academic now for the Elks and the Alouettes. Heading down to 1.5 minutes. Still a 2-score game. McLeod Bethel Thompson back in. See if they can hang on to the ball and put this one away for Montreal. Lots of success for that man. It's quite a history with Edmonton football. From the time he arrived in 2001 as a quarterback and spent those years in the QB room with Ricky Ray. Ended up as their head coach from 2016 through 2019, and after a few years as an offensive coordinator in Saskatchewan, went to Montreal. And what a run so far in his third season on the sideline for the Alouettes. That first year they caught fire. They won the Grey Cup in 23, upsetting the Argos in the East Final, and Winnipeg in the Grey Cup. And last year they were the top team in the CFL regular season. Jason Moss's Alouettes were, but they did have kind of a chilly ending after they clinched, and ultimately the Argos turned the tables and knocked them off in the East Final. But not a bad time as head coach in Montreal.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the overall record, not a bad time in Edmonton either, but yeah, certainly Montreal, you know, we've talked to Jason about this before. He has just been the right coach at the right time with that team. And, you know, obviously the fit between he and general manager Danny Machocha, with whom he goes way back to their time as coach and quarterback here in Edmonton.
Danny Machocha.
Whistle down with for the snap of the ball.
Montreal.
Alouettes taking a timeout. But it's a tandem that, again, the general manager, Danny Machocha, there he is. He won a Grey Cup as a head coach here in Edmonton. Back in 2005, he was general manager here. And they got to know each other so well from their Edmonton days when he went out to get a head coach, Danny Machocha. Moss was his guy back in 2023.
Please reset the game clock to 1:09. 1:09, please.
You know, obviously both guys remaining in football, but despite going in different directions for a number of years. But one of the things that stood out to me, I remember finding a quote a few years ago where when Danny Machocha reacquired Jason Moss and brought him back for a second stint in Edmonton, and his quote was, "We've got our leader back."
Right.
And you know, it has always stuck with me that's something that he said about Jason Moss, you know, many years before he hired him as a head coach.
Yeah.
You know, Jason wasn't being brought back to be the starting quarterback, but to be a backup in that situation. But Danny recognized those leadership qualities and how valuable Jason was to have around, and how much he could impact the team, and when he was looking for a head coach for his Montreal Alouettes. Clearly he remembered that as well.
Well, he needed a job after losing his as Saskatchewan's offensive coordinator, and Machocha brought him in, and what a payoff in 2023 as they win the Grey Cup together. And now about to go to a 3-0 start. Pressure on Zima, but he does get it away. And that one heads down. It has to be inside the 15 to go out of bounds in the air. And it does indeed. A 41-yard punt for Zima. 39 seconds on the clock. We can just about officially declare the Alouettes to 3-0 and Mark Killam's Elks to fall to 0-2 at the start.
Early growing pains for a new group still familiarizing themselves with one another here in Edmonton. But, you know, one of the things we talked to Mark Killam about the last couple of years in Calgary, that there were some tough times. One of the things Mark said he really strove to do as a coach was to remain positive, continue to bring the same energy regardless of what the team's record was. And I'm sure he'll do the same thing here as head coach of the Edmonton Elks.
Perhaps fitting, given that Alouette front, how dominant. The second sack of the season for Alouette, as they have dominated again. And there's Davis Alexander. Davis Alexander has improved now to 7-0, and that ties him for the second best all-time, along with Bo Levi Mitchell, the last one to start this well in a career, and Jeff Garcia, another Stampeder quarterback, Danny McManus at 8-0, leading the way. But he couldn't finish the game, and a lot of that's precautionary, I'm sure, but he gets the win, and he played well.
Yeah, fantastic start and victory. Great performance for Davis Alexander.
Throw it into a crowd, and Gittins does come up with it. 18 seconds to go. By the way, 5 sacks on the night for the Alouette defense. That defense has been so strong, despite the flurry of points, if you will, in the second half. have for Edmonton to stay close in the game. There's the GM, Ed Hervey. First year back in Edmonton as their general manager, and disappointed, I'm sure, in this home opener to see the team fall to an 0-2 start. Off to Leak, and he falls down. And the Alouettes ready to move up. Red Blacks playing their third game coming up. That'll be on Saturday. The Argos playing tomorrow night against Saskatchewan. And Montreal quickly jumping to the top of the East Division again, as they did 1 year ago. Looking like a dominant team for the most part tonight. They were. Leak slides down, zeros in the clock, and that's it. Davis Alexander, second best ever start for a quarterback in the Canadian Football League. He is 7-0 as a starter, 3-0 here in 2025.
Yeah, we came in talking about the Alouettes defense, and they certainly did nothing to slow down that talk, but the offense with a terrific performance here as well as Montreal. Certainly looking like they're on a little bit of a mission here to start the 2025 season. As for the Edmonton Elks, we mentioned growing pains, a lot of changes in this Edmonton lineup. It'll take some time for them to find their way. Some flashes here tonight, and they'll just have to try to build on those positives, correct the negatives along the way.
Congrats for Davis Alexander, who did admit earlier this week he kind of enjoyed the stat, but even he knows and acknowledges, of course, these victories are team wins, but still thought it was kind of cool, and cooler now at a 7-0 start. And see McLeod, Bethel Thompson, they're chatting with some old teammates like Craig Ford. Bethel Thompson went 6 for 8 for 77 yards in relief. Top team in the Canadian Football League in the standings right now, as they were a year ago. Good start, good finish. Montreal Alouettes at all aspects of the game, silencing the crowd here. That's it for the start of week 3. Thank you for watching. SC with Jay coming up next on TSN.